in prison. I develop mechas to break out. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276. Only a few thousand units were produced. The call was connected. Li Xianshu said, I already know what's going on over there. It's definitely element 120, right? According to Zhou Yang, element 120 is related to the development of the second generation mecha. Li Xianshu must be concerned about it. He has been keeping an eye on the situation on the Kola Peninsula. Yes, it has been confirmed. So the next question is mining. Zhou Yang was in a good mood and smiled. My idea is that the underground environment is harsh. Normal people can't survive at all, and there are underground monsters. Let's just let the mecha mine the ore, which is relatively safer. Li Xianshu said, your idea is good. Otherwise, if you want to build a mine at a depth of 10,000 meters, not to mention the difficulty, the construction period alone will take a long time. I think so too. Zhou Yang only has 1 year left to develop the second generation mecha. It takes several months to build a mine, which is a complete waste of time. By the way, how many mechas do we have now? This requires large scale mining. A smaller number will definitely not work. Li Xianshu nodded and said, in that case, excluding some mechas used for training, it is estimated that 1,000 can be drawn out. Mr. Zhao, is 1,000 enough? How many? Zhou Yang's eyes widened. Or 1,000? What a joke. Zhou Yang had always thought that the country did not produce many mechas, so the number would not be too large. But what are these 1,000? And there are also training ones. How many mechas did the country produce? 2,000? 3,000? Zhou Yang said, didn't I say before that the Dragon Soul is only a first generation mecha used to verify technology? There is no need to mass produce it. It will eventually be eliminated after production. Isn't this a waste? The cost of a Dragon Soul is not low. Even if it is mass produced and the production cost is spread out, it is estimated that one unit will cost 100 million. These thousands of units mean hundreds of billions of dollars. Li Xianshu laughed and said, this is not a production line, but a batch was made to test the production line. Zhou Yang rolled his eyes and said, you can only test a few thousand units to test the production line. This is all real money. Li Xianshu said, it's only a few hundred billion anyway. The country is not short of money now, and who says it's a waste? Even if these mechas are really eliminated in the future, they can be returned to the factory for refurbishment and sold to other countries. With our unique mecha technology, let alone making back the investment, it's not a problem to make 10 times the money. Zhou Yang didn't say anything after hearing this. Sure enough, they are thinking about eliminating them and selling them for money before they do anything. It is said that country Z is known as the world's largest exporter of light weapons. I'm afraid that the bullets, grenades and other things it produced in the past have not been sold out yet. Don't sell 1,000 units. Give it a half price, 500 units. Zhou Yang said. Okay, I'll arrange it. Zhou Yang hung up the phone, and a stone in his heart fell to the ground. The problem of the external armor of the mecha has basically been solved. As for the ecological base system, Zhou Yang was not in a hurry to build it. This thing is used in space. Zhou Yang's idea is to wait until the second generation mecha is completed, the system rewards are obtained, and the technical data of the planetary spacecraft are obtained, and then consider entering space and establishing a long-term space base. Now all technologies are advancing steadily, and the next step is to patiently wait for the research results to come out one by one. Zhou Yang also took a break from his busy schedule and gave himself a vacation to go home and spend a few days with his daughter. At the same time, he also accompanied Chen Ruoyan. After getting married, they were together less and apart more, and Zhou Yang felt sorry for Chen Ruoyan. At the same time, the discussion about giant monsters on the internet is still going on. However, the heat has also tended to decline, mainly because the thunder is loud, but the rain is small. This monster appeared, and before it did anything, it was solved by crossing Xian. If a large monster ran into the city and caused huge damage like in the movie, it would probably attract the attention of everyone in the world. But now, there is no damage, and the heat will naturally decline after a period of time. But the United States has been keeping an eye on the Kola Peninsula. The CIA and the intelligence organizations of the Ministry of Defense are all spying on the intelligence here. Ferguson rushed into Pear's office excitedly. "Mr. President, I figured it out." "Oh." Pear's eyes lit up. He didn't care how he figured it out. He probably spent money to corrupt some country officials or something. He asked quickly, "What's the specific situation?" Ferguson said, "The story is this. The reason why country restarted the Kola Super Deep Borehole project is because of Zhou Yang." "What? Zhou Yang?" Pear got a headache and pain all over his body when he heard this name. If he could, Pear wanted to eat Zhou Yang alive. But at the same time he was angry. Perez was also nervous. He was concerned about Zhou Yang's every move and asked quickly, "Why does Zhou Yang want to restart this project? Is he looking for something underground?" Ferguson nodded vigorously and said, "Yes. As far as we know, Country E accidentally discovered element 120 in the core, taken out of the Kola Super Deep Borehole in 2006. This is also important news in the scientific community, and there is a lot of relevant information. Zhou Yang restarted this project because he wanted to find element 120 from the depths of the borehole, because this element has been artificially synthesized for many years and has not been completed. It is estimated that Zhou Yang was thinking of looking directly in the depths of the borehole. Then when they were exploring, they accidentally discovered underground monsters. There were 2 underground monsters in total. The first one was killed by a missile by the Country E military, and the remaining one was captured by Crossing Cheyenne. Perez himself knew what happened next. Pear frowned, crossed his arms and thought for a while, then said, "That means Zhou Yang's purpose is not the underground monster at all, but for this element 120. Is there any special use for this element? Why does Zhou Yang need it?" Ferguson smiled bitterly and shook his head. Country Z protected Zhou Yang too well. It can be said that the information about Zhou Yang is more difficult to obtain than the nuclear bomb code of Country M. Of course, he doesn't know. Pear thought for a while and said, "No matter what the use of element 120 is, we can now know one thing. That is, Zhou Yang is studying element 120. What he studies, we also have to study. Can we produce this thing?" Ferguson shook his head hurriedly. "Stop it. Country E has been studying for so many years and has not yet synthesized it artificially. Country M can't do it either. I guess this element may only be found deep underground." Ferguson said casually. He said it casually, but Pear's eyes lit up. Since there is element 120 at a depth of 10,000 meters, there is no reason why there is one under their land, but not under our land. Besides, they have the Kola Super Deep Borehole. We also have the Moho project. How deep did we drill? Less than 10,000 meters, right? Then keep drilling and drill to more than 10,000 meters. Let's get element 120 out first," Pear said excitedly. In short, the purpose of Country M is very simple now. That is to follow the footsteps of Country Z. They will study whatever Country Z studies. Since Zhou Yang is studying element 120 underground, they will also study it. Ferguson had an inexplicable thought in his mind. There are monsters deep underground in Country E, so will there be monsters underground in Country M? Chapter 277 A Mosquito Bite. M. Nevada. Near the town of Bledsoe, a Cadillac convoy passed by the town and quickly disappeared into the vast wilderness. The convoy soon arrived at an abandoned town. It was more like a large factory. The buildings were mottled and abandoned, and some tall drilling equipment could be seen everywhere. The convoy stopped, and Pear strode down. In the distance, a group of people came up quickly. "Mr. President." Pear nodded to everyone and asked, "How is the situation? When can we start?" When the Moho plan was carried out, sites were selected all over the country. The first batch selected several sites. After preliminary drilling, a group of sites with poor conditions were eliminated, and finally the site in Nevada was selected. Drilling depth, 9483 meters. Although it has been abandoned for decades, the underground conditions are still good. We are ready and can start at any time. Pear nodded and followed everyone to the borehole. The huge drilling equipment was originally abandoned, but now it has been dismantled and thrown aside, revealing the borehole. The borehole was not big, about 1.5 meters in diameter. Per looked inside and saw that it was dark, and he could not see anything. "Let's get started." Per did not look at it anymore and gave the order to start. A large number of workers who had been waiting nearby immediately moved in and started working. Per inspected the borehole and expressed the importance of this time's drilling. When he heard that it would take 15 days to reach the planned depth of 10,000 meters, he left with satisfaction. The drilling work was handed over to ExxonMobil, the largest oil company in the United States. Mobil purchases mines and mines around the world. It has the most professional drilling team in the world and the best drilling equipment. The person in charge on site was Kevin. After directing the workers to start work, he kept an eye on the progress of the drilling. On the first day, the drill bit successfully reached a depth of 3,000 meters. At this position, a fault appeared in the borehole, but it was not too long. It took one night to successfully drill through the fault. The next step was a smooth journey. The drill bit continued to go deeper along the original borehole and soon reached the 9,000 meter position. 3 days had passed. Kevin had someone clean up an abandoned room as his office. He was lying down to rest when he suddenly heard a report on the intercom. "Manager, we have hit a fault again." Kevin thought about it and picked up the intercom and said, "I'll come over to take a look." In theory, if you encounter a fault, you can just drill directly. But the problem is that, if the drilling is not done well, and the drill bit breaks inside, it will be a real big trouble. Kevin came to the scene and carefully checked the data of the sensor. "Demi, what do you think? Can we continue drilling?" Kevin asked. Demi is the chief engineer on site. He has 30 years of drilling experience, and is extremely experienced. "You can try to slow down the speed of the drill bit. If the pressure rises again, you must stop." "Okay, then continue." Kevin nodded. The drilling continued, and Demi personally operated the drilling machine to control the speed of the drill bit. About 20 minutes later, the pressure dropped sharply. "Did the fault be drilled through?" A worker next to him exclaimed. Demi also breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It seems that this fault is not long." Looking at the time, Demi said, "Let's do this for today. Take back the drill bit, replace the drill bit, and let the night shift continue." Now there are 2 shifts to ensure the fastest progress. The workers on site immediately began to collect the drill bit, and soon the drill bit was pulled out. "Hey, why is there blood here? Really, this red color should be blood. The last section of the drill arm is full of blood. What's going on? Where did this blood come from?" Many workers exclaimed. Kevin, who was about to leave, also stopped and looked at the drill bit. It was stained with brown-red liquid, which really looked like blood. Strange, where did the blood come from underground? Demi went forward and smelled it, and could still smell the strong smell of blood. Kevin frowned and was about to speak, when he suddenly felt the ground rumble and shake. "What's going on? Is it an earthquake?" "No, if it's an earthquake, the house should also shake, but it's only our side that's shaking." "Oh my god, is it a blowout? Have we drilled into an underground river or something else?" everyone exclaimed. If they drilled into an underground river, the river might spray out along the borehole due to the pressure. If that's the case, then the borehole is basically ruined. The vibration became stronger and stronger, and it could be clearly felt that something was approaching the ground quickly from the borehole. Just when Kevin and others were at a loss, there was a loud bang, the ground cracked, and a huge force came. Everyone's eyes went black, and they were thrown into the sky. Cammy was in the air, and he glanced down from the corner of his eyes. He was horrified to find that a huge head had actually poked out of the ground, and a pair of waxy yellow eyes were particularly creepy. With a bang, Kevin was blown away dozens of meters, and fell heavily to the ground. Fortunately, there were a bunch of soft water pipes on the ground, so Kevin didn't fall to his death, but he was also very dizzy and his eyes went black. There was a constant ringing in his ears, mixed with the rumbling sound of the sky and the earth. Kevin climbed up with his hands and feet, and was shocked to find that a huge monster appeared at the place where the hole was originally drilled. It was a real monster. He only saw a pair of huge, extremely thick thighs, and each toe was as big as a room. He looked up along the body of the monster in a daze, and when he saw the whole appearance of the monster in front of him, his mind went blank. If Kevin was not mistaken, the monster in front of him seemed to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because a pair of mini forelimbs of the Tyrannosaurus Rex were too obvious. How high is it? 60 meters, 80 meters, or 100 meters? Kevin's eyes widened. The Tyrannosaurus Rex in front of him was like a skyscraper, too high. Roar. The Tyrannosaurus Rex stepped down, and a drilling device was directly crushed into a discus. It shook its head and let out a terrifying roar. There was a bloody wound on the back of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was very small. The fault encountered by the drill bit before should be the skin armor of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then it drilled through the skin armor. However, a drill bit of several dozen centimeters is really not worth mentioning for the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is as tall as 90 meters. I'm afraid it feels like a mosquito bite. But the problem is that after the drill bit breaks through the skin armor, it goes deep all the way, drills through the muscles, and then goes down. It will be the internal organs. The Tyrannosaurus Rex felt the pain, and noticed the abnormality on its back. The moment it rushed out of the ground, most of the workers around the drilling had fallen to death, and the night shift workers were also awakened by the roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. When they ran out and saw this behemoth, they were instantly dumbfounded. Chapter 278, Disappearance. What the hell is this? It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. A Tyrannosaurus Rex. How can there be a Tyrannosaurus Rex here? Where did it come from? Am I dreaming? The key is that the Tyrannosaurus Rex is not that tall. It must be 100 meters tall. My god, it's coming towards us. Run. The Tyrannosaurus Rex shook his head and walked towards the building. The oxygen-rich environment made the Tyrannosaurus Rex a little uncomfortable, but as the strongest and most ferocious carnivorous dinosaur, its adaptability can be said to be perfect. Although it is a little uncomfortable at this time, it does not affect its mobility. The factory building, which is more than 10 meters high, only reaches the knees of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. With a casual touch, these long abandoned buildings have completely turned into ruins. And under the feet, there are workers who can't dodge in time and are directly trampled into meat patties. As for the Tyrannosaurus Rex, it didn't even feel a little bit. However, the bloody smell still attracted the Tyrannosaurus Rex. He lowered his huge head and found many workers who fled in panic under him. The Tyrannosaurus Rex stuck its head out, and its thick tongue rolled over like a blanket covering the sky and the earth. Several workers, along with the mud and sand on the ground, were rolled into its mouth. With a slight movement, several workers were crushed into meat by its tongue. It felt like a person eating a small insect, but the blood still made the Tyrannosaurus Rex feel the smell of food. It took a step and began to rumble and search for the workers on the ground. The entire building was also in trouble and was directly reduced to ruins. A few minutes later, there was no living worker still running at the scene. The Tyrannosaurus Rex roared again, looked around blankly, and finally chose a direction at random and rumbled away. After the Tyrannosaurus Rex went away, several heads emerged from the ruins. Kevin was among them. At this time, one of his arms was broken, and he was pale with pain, but thinking about the workers who were eaten alive by the Tyrannosaurus Rex, he felt that he was still lucky. Looking at the Tyrannosaurus Rex going away, Kevin trembled and took out his mobile phone. Fortunately, the mobile phone was not broken, and he quickly dialed a number. Kevin said one sentence after the call was connected. Something big has happened. Two F-22s cut through the dusk sky. Arrived at the destination. A pilot tilted his head and looked down. At a very fast speed, he could vaguely see that the building complex where the drilling was located had become a ruin. Look, footprints. Such big footprints. Another pilot exclaimed. On the ground, there was a huge footprint every few dozen meters. The footprints were 30 or 40 meters long, and they were surprisingly large, spreading all the way forward. How is it? Have you seen the target? The command center asked. No target has been found for the time being, but we saw footprints. You probably won't believe it. The footprints are so big. How tall is this guy? Intelligence shows that it is nearly 100 meters high. The pilot was shocked. 100 meters high, damn it. The two pilots quickly followed the footprints. From the time they received the notification, took off from the Nevada Air Force Base, and flew over. More than half an hour had passed, and they didn't know where the Tyrannosaurus Rex had gone. A few kilometers away, flames shot up into the sky. A small town had been reduced to ruins. The fire caused the entire town to be engulfed in flames. The driver took a deep breath, held his breath, and continued to move forward. Tim, Las Vegas is ahead. That thing, it must have gone somewhere, a driver said in a horrified voice. Tim's expression was also very serious. The destructive power of a 100-meter tall prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex was the best proof of the small town before. Allowing such a monster to break into the prosperous city of Las Vegas would be a devastating disaster. Turn on the gas and chase it quickly. Tim turned on the gas directly and headed for Las Vegas quickly. As night fell, Las Vegas, the world-famous gambling city, had just woken up. The lights were on, and the colorful lights shot up into the sky. This was a city that never sleeps. A large magic show was being held at Brink Square on the edge of the city. The magician was the famous magician McCrosby from the United States. He was going to perform a large-scale disappearance today to make the 30-meter-high Victory Glory statue in the center of Brink Square disappear. The scene was busy preparing. Under the command of McCrosby, many assistants were supporting the shielding cloth around the Victory statue. Below the stage, there were thousands of spectators and many reporters. There were also several live broadcast vehicles parked in the distance, and the local TV station was broadcasting live. Guys, I'm going to start. After the preparations were almost done, McCrosby came to the center of the stage, and the light suddenly focused on the Victory statue behind him. Everyone at the scene held their breath, and the cameras were all aimed at McCrosby and the statue behind him. Let's count down together. 3, 2, 1. Guys, let's witness the miracle together. McCrosby shouted excitedly. All the shielding cloths fell down with a bang, and with the rising white mist, a huge head appeared at the original position of the Victory statue. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. All the audiences in the audience widened their eyes, and their surprise turned into horror. McCrosby closed his eyes and prepared to enjoy the applause of the audience, but he didn't hear any applause. He thought the performance was wrong, and he looked back quickly. When he turned around and saw the huge head in front of him, McCrosby's mind went blank. What's going on? He was just performing a magic trick. Where did this big head come from? Is this a Tyrannosaurus Rex? And why is there blood on its mouth? And it seems to be breathing and its eyes can move. McCrosby could clearly feel the heavy breath of the Tyrannosaurus Rex hitting him. The strong smell of blood mixed with the disgusting stench made him feel as scared as if he fell into an ice cellar. The next moment, the Tyrannosaurus Rex opened its mouth and bit down. In the camera, McCrosby was swallowed by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't know who shouted first, and then all the audience began to flee frantically. But it was too late. The Tyrannosaurus Rex rolled up its big tongue, and I don't know how many people were rolled into its mouth. The person carrying the camera had already peed himself in fear, and turned around and ran. The camera fell to the ground, but it didn't break. Everything that happened in front of him was faithfully recorded through the live camera, allowing countless people to see it. Country Z Zhou Yang, who was playing with Zhao Tong at home, suddenly heard a voice next to his ear. Sir, there is a video call for you. Please answer it. Zhou Yang picked up Zhao Tong. It was Li Xianshu who called. In the video, Li Xianshu's expression was extremely solemn. He said, Mr. Zhao, please watch a video first. Then, a video was played in front of Zhou Yang. It was the scene where McCrosby was bitten off by the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then the big tongue rolled up, and countless people were rolled into its mouth. Zhou Yang instantly covered Zhao Tong's ears, and asked in surprise, when did this happen? Just now, half an hour ago. Chapter 279 A Disaster. Half an hour ago, that is, it just happened. What's going on? Where is this? Zhou Yang asked hurriedly. Li Xianshu said, M country, Las Vegas. The video has been cut off. Zhou Yang stood up, hugged Zhao Tong and asked, is this a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Is it also an underground creature? How did it get out? And it's still in M country. Li Xianshu shook his head and said, there is no more news for the time being. I don't know how this guy ran to Las Vegas. If it weren't for the live broadcast, so many people wouldn't know about it and spread it all over the world so quickly. But we have seen the situation in Las Vegas through satellite. As he said that, Li Xianshu sent some more photos. It was still dark over there. In the originally prosperous Las Vegas, amidst the hot city lights, large areas of abnormal darkness appeared. I'm afraid this is the damage caused by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And from the satellite pictures, there are still a lot of fires in the city. Country didn't care, Zhou Yang said in surprise. This is Las Vegas, one of the most prosperous cities in the world. There are millions of people in the whole city. It is a disaster for such a huge monster to run in. Li Xianshu said, how could they not care? According to intelligence, they should have dispatched multiple batches of F-22 fighters in advance, and then dispatched the National Guard to evacuate the city's residents. What was the result? Did the Tyrannosaurus Rex die? This Tyrannosaurus Rex is most likely also an underground creature. Although it looks bigger, reaching nearly 100 meters, it is essentially the same. Under the firepower of modern weapons, it has almost no chance of survival. Moreover, this is an F-22, flying in the air and launching missiles. No matter how strong the Tyrannosaurus Rex is, can it withstand missiles and fly into the sky? Li Xianshu said, from the analysis of satellite images, the Tyrannosaurus Rex seems to have drilled into the ground. The army did not suffer much loss, but they did not react at first, allowing this guy to rush to the big city in advance, and then they were forced to fight in the city. I believe that the civilian casualties and losses caused were not small. Zhou Yang sighed lightly and frowned. These underground creatures are really a trouble. The country incident is a reminder that, if there are underground monsters deep underground all over the world, they will appear on the ground sooner or later. We can't monitor all places. If we don't pay attention, it will cause huge casualties. Li Xianshu nodded and said, that's the reason. The people above are already having a meeting to discuss whether to solve this hidden danger once and for all. Even if we have mechas, it's not easy to do so. Apart from anything else, we have to dig a hole 10,000 meters deep into the ground first. Moreover, Zhou Yang felt that not every place deep underground had similar spaces that could allow these ancient dinosaurs to survive. So we couldn't just drill holes aimlessly, which would be more costly. You guys discuss it. I won't care. Zhou Yang said. Again, let the higher ups deal with this kind of thing. Zhou Yang just needs to do his own research. Country. Overnight, Pear's hair turned a lot whiter, and he was exhausted. He never thought that he would drill a hole by imitating the example of Z Country and actually hit an underground monster. Have you counted the casualties? Pear asked again. Now the whole and even the whole world is paying attention to this matter, especially in Country, where people are also panicking. When Country exposed the underground large monster, the people didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, it was too far away from them, but who would have thought that the situation would change, and the monster of Country had the help of Z Country, and dispatched a mecha to solve it directly. Now it's their turn, but they don't even have mecha. And now only one large monster has appeared. What if other cities also appear? Some wealthy people have already booked planes to leave Country and come to Z Country for refuge. Because Z Country has mechas, even if an underground monster really appears, it will probably be destroyed in minutes. As a result, the prices of passenger plane tickets from all over to Country Z have skyrocketed several times, and even then, the supply still cannot meet the demand. The Secretary of State took a deep breath and said, preliminary estimates show that more than 70,000 people died, and there is no way to count the number of injured. At least 100,000 or 200,000. Pear's eyes went dark, and he almost fainted. 70,000 people died, which could kill him. If this were announced, his presidency would probably be over. The Secretary of State's face was extremely ugly, and he said, but fortunately, we have nanomedical machines, so the injured people can basically recover completely, and there is no big problem. No big problem? Pear almost picked up something and threw it at him. He stepped down, so you should step down too. Also, don't mention nanomedical machines to me again, or anything related to Country Z. Pear slammed the table and shouted. This time, if it weren't for Zhou Yang, how could Pear have a brain twitch and restart the Moho project and drill a hole underground? Now, a deadly ancestor has been drilled out. After a while, Pear calmed down a little, looked at the Minister of Defense, and asked, "Have you found the monster?" The Minister of Defense shook his head awkwardly and whispered, "No news yet." When the F-22 arrived, the Tyrannosaurus Rex had already rushed into Las Vegas and started to destroy crazily. Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't eat many people because he was too big and it was too hard to eat people who were so small. The main reason was that the Tyrannosaurus Rex was huge and came from underground. He didn't like light very much. Las Vegas was full of colorful lights and neon lights, so the Tyrannosaurus Rex destroyed crazily. With its size, no building could withstand its destruction. So most of the casualties were caused by building collapses and people being trampled to death by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Then the F-22 arrived and fired missiles without hesitation. The missile hit the Tyrannosaurus Rex, causing considerable damage. This guy jumped and tried to attack the F-22, but found that he couldn't reach it at all, so he began to run around the city to avoid it. During this run, it was unknown how many people were trampled to death and how many buildings were destroyed. Unfortunately, it was so big that a few missiles could not kill it, so the damage it caused became greater and greater. When the next few batches of fighters arrived, the Tyrannosaurus Rex felt a threat to its life, and then it directly dug a hole and disappeared without a trace. "Can't we chase it along the hole it made?" someone asked. The Minister of Defense glared at him and said, "Are you going to chase it in a hole that is thousands of meters deep?" The man immediately stopped talking. Who can go into a bottomless hole with a diameter of dozens of meters, and who dares to go in? Now the Army is using radar, sonar and other means to monitor above the city to find the trace of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. At this time, the Minister of Defense suddenly said, "Mr. President, in fact, the best way is to find it along the hole it made, but with our weapons, it is too dangerous and difficult. However, if we use a mecha, then there should be no problem." Mecha? Pear was stunned, and then he understood what the Minister of Defense meant. He jumped and shouted, "You want me to ask Country Z for help? Dream on. Don't even think about it in this life. It's 100 times impossible. Ask Country Z, unless you die." Chapter 280, Can't do it for long. Pear simply rejected the proposal to ask for help from Country Z. They are Country M, the world's most powerful country. If they were to ask Country Z for help, wouldn't that be a disguised admission that Country Z is the most powerful country in the world? If that happened, how would the people of M view him? Pear would have no chance of becoming president. In short, don't mention this matter again. You should find a way to kill this monster as soon as possible and give the people an explanation. Do you understand? Pear slammed the table and shouted. Everyone looked at each other in embarrassment. At this time, a White House assistant came over and said, "Sir, the press conference will be held in another hour. Do you want to postpone it? Also, do you want to announce the death toll?" Pear was immediately in pain again. Now the whole of M, or the whole world, is waiting for the casualty report. If he postpones it again, he will be given a bad impression of concealing the report. Gritting his teeth, Pear nodded and said, "No, you should prepare your speech. It's a matter of time, whether you stick your head out or shrink your head." At 9 o'clock in the morning, Pear personally appeared at the press conference. All the reporters stood up and raised their hands frantically. They had too many questions to ask Pear. The flashlights made Pear almost unable to open his eyes. After waving his hand and signaling everyone to be quiet, Pear randomly pointed to a reporter. "Mr. President, where did this huge monster come from?" Pear said expressionlessly, "Of course it came out from underground." Everyone frowned. This was simply nonsense. Everyone knew that monsters came out from underground. The reporter who asked the question asked, "Then why do we have monsters coming out from underground in our country M?" Pear still had a blank expression and said, "If you want to know the reason, you should ask Country E and Country Z. Ask them how they discovered the underground monsters, and how they caused the underground monsters to appear all over the world." The reporter who asked the question had a bright look in his eyes and asked quickly, "Do you mean that the appearance of the underground monster is related to Country Z?" "I didn't say that," Pear said lightly. "I didn't say that, but it doesn't stop you from thinking so." Discrediting Country Z to divert attention. Basic operation. Many reporters began to record. It is estimated that it will not be long before the news that the underground monster appeared in Country M, and it was a conspiracy of Country Z will spread all over the world. Per was secretly excited and pointed to another reporter. The reporter asked, "Mr. President, how many casualties did the monster cause? Have the numbers been counted?" Per's face changed slightly. He was most afraid of being asked this question. But since he was here, Per was already prepared. He said with a sad expression, "Preliminary statistics show that the underground monster caused a total of more than 70,000 deaths and countless injuries. However, due to our country's excellent medical technology, all the injured will be treated and fully recovered." There was an uproar at the scene. The number of 70,000 scared everyone. This is the highest number of deaths in Country M since the beginning of the new century. Per hurriedly said, "Then let us observe a moment of silence for the victims." After speaking, he stood there with his eyes on his nose and his nose on his heart, thinking that a few minutes had passed. Many reporters looked at each other and followed in silence. But the number of 70,000 people has been broadcasted all over M through the live camera, and everyone was shocked. 70,000 people, my god, how can there be so many? This is simply a disaster. At the press conference, 2 minutes later, Per looked up and signaled that it could continue. Many reporters raised their hands. Per reluctantly pointed to a reporter who he had some impression of, who seemed to be a reporter from the Los Angeles Daily News. He thought it would not be too difficult for him. Unexpectedly, the reporter came up and asked, "Sir, there is a theory on the internet now, that is, the underground monster in E country was solved by the mecha of Z country. Now our M country has also appeared an underground monster. According to my intelligence, the monster was not killed, but hid underground. So some people say that we should ask for help from Z country and let them send out mechas to help us kill the underground monster. Do you have this plan?" Per stared at the reporter fiercely, as if to say, "Wait for me." Facing the gazes of the crowd, Per said without hesitation, "There is absolutely no such possibility. Our country M is the most powerful country in the world and has the most powerful military force in the world. When our citizens are in danger, we are fully capable of protecting our citizens. Why should we ask for help from other countries? So I will not, and will never ask for help from Country Z." Many reporters looked at each other in bewilderment. At this moment, a man suddenly walked up to the podium and said something in Per's ear. Per's face changed instantly, and he immediately followed the man out of the press conference. "The monster has appeared again." This is what the man said to Per. After leaving the press conference hall, the man added another sentence, saying, "There is one more." "What? There is one more? What's going on?" Per was so anxious that he jumped up and down. "By the way, where did the monster appear?" Per asked hurriedly. He also thought that the people in Las Vegas had basically evacuated and there was desert all around, so even if the monster appeared again, it should not be a big problem. Unexpectedly, the man had a solemn expression and said slowly, "Los Angeles." "Where?" Per instantly had the urge to vomit blood. Arriving at the underground command center, on the big screen, 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex were running wildly in the city. Per's eyes went dark, and he almost fainted. How could this happen? Where did this one come from? Per asked, trying to suppress the surge in blood pressure. Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. "We used sonar to conduct reconnaissance near Las Vegas before, but we didn't find anything. Who knew that this guy would appear from underground in Los Angeles, 360 kilometers away? Yes, this is completely beyond our expectations. As for the newly appeared Tyrannosaurus Rex, we speculate that it may be the mate of the previous Tyrannosaurus Rex, a female dragon, because its body is even bigger, about 110 meters long." Per opened his mouth wide. Did the previous Tyrannosaurus Rex get bullied and go home to ask his wife for help? In the camera, the damage to the previous Tyrannosaurus Rex has been restored a lot. The other Tyrannosaurus Rex is even bigger, and it runs like the sky and the earth. Wherever it passes, spider web-like cracks appear on the ground. This thing must weigh thousands of tons. No ground can bear it running so fast. Where are the fighter planes? When will they arrive? Per asked hurriedly. These 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex running wildly in the city would be a disaster, a bigger disaster than Las Vegas. At this moment, Pear suddenly felt that his presidency might not last long. Chapter 281 No time. The news that a giant monster appeared in Los Angeles again spread all over the world in an instant. Even the shocking news that Pear said that the giant monster was created by Country Z was immediately suppressed. A whole squadron of F-22s, a total of 25, rushed to Los Angeles as soon as possible. Dozens of missiles were fired at the first time. Facing such an attack, the male Tyrannosaurus Rex seemed to have experience. With a roar, he pulled out his slender tail. Rumble. Several missiles were directly hit by the thick tail and exploded in the air. The huge explosion also caused a chain explosion of other missiles. In the end, there were only about 7 or 8 missiles that fell on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The flames of the explosion directly submerged the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex also screamed miserably, but they were too huge. Although several missiles blew huge wounds on them, they were not fatal. Most of the male Tyrannosaurus Rex's tail was blown off, and he started to dig holes. The female Tyrannosaurus Rex next to him roared unwillingly and followed the male Tyrannosaurus Rex and quickly disappeared underground. The entire city was left with a nearly 10-kilometer long ruins. Damn it. In the command center, the Minister of Defense slapped the table angrily. Pear on the opposite side was also furious. What is this? Running out to make a scene and then shrinking back. The key is that if you just run around, you don't know how much damage will be caused. This is a full 10 kilometers. I don't know how many buildings have been destroyed and how many people have died. Go down. Think of a way, whether you drive a plane or a tank into the cave for me. No matter what, you must kill them. Pear roared. The Minister of Defense was embarrassed. There was no need to think about the plane. Although the cave was large, there was no condition for flying. Tanks were not very good either. They couldn't drive in the vertical cave. Soon, the casualties were counted. 28,000 people died, and the number of injured was more than 3 times the number of deaths. In short, it was another disaster. On TV, the footage of the monster attacking Las Vegas and Los Angeles was constantly broadcast. At the same time, there was what Pear said at the press conference, that we are the most powerful country in the world and have the most powerful military in the world. Shit. Yes, if there really was a way, the monsters would have been solved long ago. Look at Country E. When monsters appeared, weren't they solved immediately? What do you mean by the strongest military force in the world? It's ridiculous. Mechas. Mechas are the strongest in the world. That's right, no weapons are useful in front of mechas. No, we also want mechas. We need to ask Country Z for help. Only they have mechas. If Country Z is willing to help us, then these monsters are no match at all. First it was Las Vegas, then Los Angeles. Where is it below? Will it be here? I'm not like a rich person who can go abroad to escape. I don't want to live in such a terrifying day. Let's just march and petition. Yes, go out and petition. We want mechas and help from Country Z. There were not just a group of people who had similar ideas, but many people in Country M. Therefore, a large number of citizens quickly gathered outside the White House to petition. Pear, who was still having a headache about what to do, fainted when he saw the petition team outside. The next day, the 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex did not appear, but no one knew where the 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex were lurking and when they would come to the surface and cause another disaster. At the press conference of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Country Z, spokesman Zhou Yang answered some questions in a routine manner. At this time, a foreign reporter suddenly raised his hand and asked, "We have noticed that a large number of marches and petitions have broken out across Country M, hoping that the government will ask the government of Country Z to send out mechas to help them eliminate the underground monsters. May I ask if the government of Country Z has received the request from the government of Country M and whether it has the intention in this regard?" Zhou Yang was slightly stunned. The foreign reporters at the scene also became alert. Zhou Yang was silent for a while, as if he was waiting for something. Many reporters were also used to it. Such unprepared questions always had to be asked for instructions from above. 10 seconds later, Zhou Yang smiled and said, "We have not received any request from the M government yet. Of course, you asked us If we are willing to help M as a big country and a strong country in the world, we must also take certain responsibilities when facing this kind of natural disaster. So my answer is yes. Many reporters were stunned. They did not expect Zhou to say such a thing. Since Z announced its withdrawal from the United Nations, many experts have analyzed that Z has completely broken with M. From now on, the world will once again see a bipolar hegemony. Therefore, as a hostile country, Z has been conscientious not to add insult to injury when M is in trouble, and now it is willing to help. For a time, many foreign reporters were inexplicably moved. Z, a good person. But the next moment, Zhou continued, of course, everyone should also know that mecha manufacturing is extremely difficult. We have not yet solved the problem of large-scale mass production, and the Dragon Soul is the first generation of mecha. It is also a technology verification and experimental mecha, so the output is limited, and not many units have been produced. And everyone also knows that the underground monster first appeared in country E, and it also caused huge damage at the time. For the safety of their people, the government of country E has long requested us to send out mechas to help them resist the underground monsters. As you can see, we have dispatched the large mecha extinction that has just been completed, but this is not enough. The number of underground monsters is unknown, and the hidden dangers have not been eliminated. Country E's intention is to go deep underground and solve the problem of underground monsters once and for all. As an ally, we certainly cannot ignore Country E's request, so we have mobilized almost all available mechas to go to Country E, and are now helping Country E search for and kill underground monsters. But as you all know, underground monsters hide underground, and it is extremely difficult to find them. So far, there has been no further progress or breakthroughs. In other words, in the short term, our country just wants to help country M, and we don't have any extra mechas for the time being. Therefore, if country M has the intention in this regard, we are of course willing to help, but the reality is that they may have to wait a little longer, at least until all the underground monsters in country E are cleared. After Zhou finished speaking, the reporters on the scene were completely stunned. Those foreign reporters who were just moved to tears also squeezed back their tears. From the beginning of the great power responsibility, willing to help, to the later reasons one by one, this routine made many reporters feel inexplicably familiar. There is no doubt that this is the routine that the black-bellied rabbit is best at. I want to help you, but the conditions do not allow it. Don't look at Zhou long talk. In fact, 2 words are enough to summarize it. That is, no time. Yes, I can help you, but I don't have time recently, so you have to carry it yourself first. Chapter 282 from Area 51. Many reporters looked at Zhou with resentment, especially those foreign reporters. Their hearts almost chilled. What do you mean that country Z has not produced many mechas? You have even produced such a large extinction, and you still say that you have not solved the production line problem of the Dragon Soul. Are you kidding me? The outside world has long speculated that country Z must have at least 100 mechas, if not 1,000. There is no need to have more. It is a waste to produce more than the world, but it is definitely not okay to have fewer. For such a big country, if you just send them to the border, there will be hundreds of them. Now Zhou said that the production of mechas is insufficient, which is completely nonsense. What about the request from country E? No one knows whether country E has such a request, but to say that all the mechas will be dispatched to help country E eliminate the underground monsters, when did you country Z become so kind? It's just because of the allies. Between countries, interests come first. Even with allies, country Z can't help country E without reservation. At this moment, many reporters wanted to give Zhou a thumbs up. This was just too beautiful. It's like asking someone to borrow money. The other party said something nice, but at the end, he suddenly said, "My wife won't let me borrow it." You can't even scold him. Zhou ignored the resentful eyes of many reporters, announced the end of the press conference with a smile, and turned to leave. The speech of country Z also quickly reached the ears of the people of country M, because of the large-scale petition campaign. Per, who had just woken up, had decided to stage a large-scale face-slapping scene. He planned to accept his fate and ask country Z for help. Unexpectedly, country Z did this directly. I want to help you, but I don't have time. Looking at the relevant reports, Pear's eyes went dark, and he fainted again. Country Z is pushing him to a dead end. When he woke up again, another day had passed. Pear's hair was pale and his body was extremely weak. He felt that he could be impeached and fired directly because of his poor physical condition. Mr. President, there is a person outside. Do you want to see him? The White House assistant came over and said. Who is it? Pear frowned slightly. At this time, except for someone who came to say that I stole a mecha from Country Z or found a way to kill the underground monster, no one else could make Pear happy. The White House assistant said, this person is from Area 51. Area 51. Pear frowned slightly. Of course he knew this place. There were rumors that there were aliens here. In fact, after Pear came to power, he specifically asked someone and learned that there were no aliens in Area 51. There was only a military base, and then there was a military technology institute affiliated with the Ministry of National Defense. Could they have a way to kill the underground monster? Pear's eyes suddenly lit up, and he felt dizzy in an instant, and quickly asked his assistant to call someone in. A bald middle-aged man in a grey suit came in. He looked a little embarrassed. After seeing Pear, he forced an awkward smile and said quickly, hello, Mr. President, my name is Harry Collette. Pear shook hands with Harry excitedly, pulled Harry to sit down, and said, do you have a way to deal with the underground monster? Harry was stunned and waved his hands quickly, saying, I didn't say I have a way to deal with the underground monster. What? Pear blinked and instantly felt a sense of shattered hope. After a while, Pear stood up, restored his formal expression, and asked, what are you doing here? Harry said quickly, it's like this, Mr. President. I want to invite you to a place where you may find a way to surpass the technology of Country Z. What? Pear exclaimed and asked uncertainly, you mean to surpass the technology of Country Z? Harry nodded excitedly and said, yes, of course I just said there is hope, but I'm not sure whether it will work or not. If there is hope, it will definitely work. Pear became excited. If he could surpass the technology of Country Z, wouldn't it mean that he could develop weapons that are more powerful than mechas? Then it would be easy to deal with the underground monsters. Then why are you still standing there? Let's go quickly. Where are you going? Pear asked, pulling Harry up. A few hours later, Pear arrived at Area 51 by helicopter. The ground of Area 51 is a military base. The helicopter landed directly in the military base, and the commander of the base also hurried to Pear to say hello. Pear simply dealt with the commander and followed Harry to a building at the back of the base. When he opened the door, he found an elevator that led directly underground. Pear entered the elevator curiously. He had never been to this place before. The elevator went down for a long time. How deep is this place? Pear asked. Harry said, 226 meters. Pear was shocked and frowned. Why didn't I know about this place? Harry said, sir, don't be angry. In fact, not only you, but also the presidents of the previous term and the term before that don't know about this place. This place has been operating in secret. Outsiders only know that there is a military technology institute below, but what they don't know is that there is a secret institute below the military institute. This place was first established during the time of President Hoover. He ordered everything here to be sealed and formulated a secret operation plan and ordered that it could only be made public after the research results were achieved. President Hoover? Pear was no longer angry and felt balanced. After all, his predecessor and the previous president didn't know. What secrets are there under this place? Pear asked. Harry smiled and said, you'll see it soon. At this time, the elevator stopped and opened. Pear walked out of the elevator. He was greeted by a dozen bearded researchers in white coats. But Pear's eyes were instantly attracted by something in the center of the underground base in front of him. Is this a flying saucer? Pear exclaimed. In the center of the base, there was a flying saucer with a diameter of 40 meters and a UFO-like appearance. The whole flying saucer seemed to be frozen, and the outer surface was covered with clear and transparent crystals. Harry nodded, took Pear forward and said, yes, Mr. President, this is an alien spaceship, or UFO for short. We found it on July 4th, 1930. It crashed in Area 51, which is where we are now. It was in this condition when we found it, with the outside covered by these strange crystals. We speculate that this may be a protective device for the spacecraft to prevent impact. It is also possible that it is a self-destruct device to prevent the enemy from getting their spacecraft, and the spacecraft is covered with this crystal. After the spacecraft was discovered, President Hoover ordered the construction of this secret base to study the spacecraft. We found that this crystal is extremely strong. We studied it for many years before we found a way to use a large laser to slowly grind the crystal. The grinding progress is also incredibly slow. In a year, we can only grind a distance of 1 centimeter. For this, we have been grinding for nearly 80 years. Now, we have finally opened up the hatch. Pear noticed that on the side of the spacecraft, there was a structure that was obviously a hatch. A half-meter square hole had been polished out in this place, leading directly to the hatch. Chapter 283. Someone turned on the light. Pear stepped forward and looked at the hatch. The hatch was a sealed structure, seamless, without switches, and no handles. Have you opened it before? Pear asked. Harry and the others shook their heads. Really? Pear looked at Harry and the others suspiciously. After 80 years of polishing, the crystal on the outside was finally polished off. How could he restrain his curiosity and not look at the situation inside? Harry still shook his head and said, I really haven't seen it, mainly because we don't know how to open it. Pear was stunned and said speechlessly, then what do you want me to see? Don't spend decades polishing off the door, then laugh. Harry stepped forward and pointed to the lower right corner of the hatch and said, Sir, look, we have tested it here. Using a high-power laser, we should be able to cut this door open. The whole process won't take too long, but since we have completed our mission, we must be in your presence before we can open this door. Pear then noticed that there was a laser burn mark at the lower right corner of the hatch, which looked a bit penetrating. How long will it take? About 5 hours. Pear said without hesitation, then open it. After a pause, he said to his assistant, by the way, go up and inform the commander of the base to send some soldiers down, in case the aliens inside are still alive. Of course, 90 years have passed, they should all be dead. No, there are those hibernation capsules in the movies, maybe they are still alive. Go, send more people down, fully armed. The assistant went there in a hurry. Harry and others also began to get busy, using their homemade large laser launcher to cut the hatch. It was said to take 5 hours, but it took 6 hours to completely cut the hatch. Hundreds of soldiers on the scene instantly became nervous, and they all raised their weapons and aimed at the spacecraft. With a bang, the hatch fell down, and the sound of decompression came from the cabin, and there was a faint wisp of smoke coming out. Pear also subconsciously hid back, but there was no reaction, and no aliens ran out. Everything was quiet. Pear looked at everyone and asked, who will go in and see what's going on inside? Everyone looked at each other. Who wouldn't be afraid of this unknown alien spaceship? Harry was the first to say, Sir, I'll go in. Harry has been in charge of the research of this spaceship for more than 10 years. Of course, he was curious about the situation inside the spaceship. After so many years, it was finally opened. How could he not want to be the first to go in and see it? Very good, then you be careful, Pear said. A few minutes later, Harry carried the camera and entered the spaceship carefully. Pear and others also came to the screen to check the images sent back by the camera. After entering the hatch, there was an empty room with some clothes similar to spacesuits placed on the left and right. This place seemed to be the place where people changed into spacesuits after leaving the spaceship. At the end of the room, there was another door that looked very heavy. Harry walked to the door carefully and pushed it, but it didn't move at all. There was no fingerprint or face scanning security equipment on the left and right. Mr. President, there is no danger, but there is another door below, and it seems that I can't get through, Harry said. Pear and the others also saw it, and they were immediately in pain. If we open one door at a time, then we have to cut all the doors open. How long will that take? Pear said depressedly. The commander next to him suggested, why don't we just use bombs to blow the doors open? The researcher next to him shook his head and said, how can that be possible? What if the spaceship is destroyed? I think we should continue cutting. It's safer this way. As everyone was talking, in the video, the originally dim room suddenly lit up. Turn on the lights. Someone turned on the lights. In an instant, everyone present, including Harry and the spaceship, felt a sense of horror, and Harry wanted to run away from the spaceship immediately. At this moment, a ray of light suddenly appeared in front of Harry, and the light flickered, and it was like a holographic projection, projecting a figure. This is also a human-like existence, with 2 hands and 2 feet, walking upright. It looks like a woman, but in terms of details, it is very different from humans. For example, she had no breasts, was only about 1.23 meters tall, and had a brownish red skin with some light lines on her skin. In terms of facial features, there was a big gap between her and humans, but she still had the basic facial features, but her head shape was a bit weird, as if her head was bigger, and her ears were pointed and slender. Her eyes were amber, like a cat's size, staring at Harry quietly. Harry instantly had an urge to pee. Pear and others in front of the screen also held their breath, too scared to breathe. The alien was still alive. After a full 30 seconds, just when Harry felt that he couldn't bear it anymore, some graphics suddenly appeared in front of the female alien. There were some very obvious symbolic words, but they were completely incomprehensible. At this time, Harry calmed down a little, moved his body a little, and found that the female alien had no intention of stopping him, and was still staring at him quietly. "Do you want to communicate with me?" Harry swallowed his saliva and said nervously. The female alien obviously didn't understand, but the words obviously changed a little, which should be another meaning. Harry breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the alien really wanted to contact them. Since no one knows whether there are surviving aliens inside this alien spaceship, this secret research institute has studied a set of methods for contacting and communicating with aliens while studying the spaceship. Harry carefully moved to the front of the hatch, waved to his colleagues below, and said to communicate. Many colleagues immediately woke up and started to prepare things. The process of communication is to use pictures and videos with voice to let the aliens understand the different meanings expressed in different languages. The whole process is still very troublesome. However, Harry and others found that this female alien seemed to be very easy to communicate with. Watching the video, they can accurately say their voices. In this way, about a day passed, and the aliens had learned about the existence of the Earth and the various creatures on the Earth. Of course, they also spoke English. This alien has a strong learning ability. Pear couldn't help muttering, after watching it from the beginning. It's just like a supercomputer or artificial intelligence. Everything can be taught once. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Contacting Me. Pear entered the spaceship carefully. "Hello, leader of the Earthlings." The female alien looked at Pear and said calmly. Pear felt a little flattered. Leader of the Earthlings, this title he liked. "Hello, my name is Pear, what's your name?" Pear thought for a moment and asked. The female alien said, "I just took an Earthling name, so you can call me Red Queen." Red Queen? Pear was slightly stunned, glanced at Harry next to him, and muttered, "Did you show her Resident Evil?" Harry's eyebrows twitched, but he didn't say anything. Pear was about to ask again, but Red Queen said, "Earthlings, we are from a distant planet. Our spaceship had an accident and crashed on your planet. I hope you can help us repair the spaceship. In return, I can give you some technology to help you develop." Pear's eyes lit up. What he wanted was alien technology. Almost without any hesitation, Pear said, "Of course, what do you want us to do? Also, do you have mecha technology?" "What is a mecha?" Red Queen asked. Pear was about to explain, but the Red Queen said, "I noticed that there is something called the internet on your planet, which is a message transmission network. Can you give me an interface? This way, I can understand the level of technological development on your planet, and provide you with the appropriate technology." Internet. Pear frowned slightly, and a sense of alarm rose in his heart. The information currently communicated with the Red Queen was all selected by them. Now that the Red Queen proposed to connect to the internet, wouldn't all the information related to the Earth be known to the Red Queen? In this way, the aliens would know all the details of the Earthlings. What if the aliens come to attack the Earth? Per certainly wanted to be the leader of the Earthlings, but he didn't want to be a dead leader. The Red Queen said, "Why, is it inconvenient? Are you afraid that we will understand the situation on your planet? In fact, there is no need to connect to your so-called internet. We also have a large planet scanning system that can scan your entire planet and evaluate the level of technological development on your planet. However, starting this system requires a huge amount of energy, and the energy of the spacecraft is already seriously insufficient. I don't want to waste it on such a meaningless move." Per's mind turned quickly. First of all, he didn't know if the planet scanning system that Red Queen mentioned was real. If it was real, then it didn't matter whether the internet was open or not. In the eyes of aliens, the Earth didn't have any secrets. And Per thought that, after all, it was just to let the aliens know more about the situation on the Earth. Even if the aliens knew the information on the internet, it didn't matter. Besides, the aliens might not even think highly of the Earth. Most importantly, if he didn't agree, wouldn't it affect the relationship that had just been established with the aliens? If they were unwilling to give him technology, he would lose a lot. Okay, but how do you connect it? Per nodded. Red Queen pointed at Harry and said, "Let him talk to me in detail. He seems to be the person in charge of developing technology." Harry didn't think much about it and told Red Queen how the internet worked. Half an hour later, Red Queen said, "I understand. How about this? I can modify the frequency of the spacecraft and connect to your internet wirelessly." Harry turned on the wireless network of the Institute under the instructions of Red Queen. "Let me learn about it first." After saying that, Red Queen disappeared. Per frowned slightly, always feeling that there were certain risks in doing so, but thinking about it, the spaceship was still under his control, and the alien spaceship communication system was probably damaged. Otherwise, since the aliens were alive, why didn't they contact their companions? Since the spaceship was broken and couldn't contact the alien companions, the spaceship was on Earth, so there was no big problem. If you dare to act rashly, nuclear bombs will be ready. The key is to take out the alien technology. Keep an eye on her and notify me immediately if she appears again." Per said to Harry. Per estimated that it would take some time for the Red Queen to understand the information on the internet. Z Country. Northwest Nuclear Base. Zhou Yang and Zhu Jindang's team are making the final efforts for the miniaturization of controlled nuclear fusion. Nowadays, the key to the second generation mecha has become the miniaturization of controlled nuclear fusion. As long as there is a breakthrough here, many problems can be solved. The overall progress is not slow, and it can even be said to be very fast. From the initial 30 meters to the current 50 centimeter controlled nuclear fusion device, it can actually be used on many platforms. Even, it can be installed on a car to make a nuclear powered car. However, Zhou Yang's ultimate goal is to make something 10 centimeters in size, similar to the size of an arc reactor, so the technology still needs to be broken through. Zhou Yang's joining did not speed up the research and development process much. After all, the difficulty of this thing is too great. On this day, Zhou Yang was doing data calculations in the office, and a pop-up window suddenly appeared on the screen. "Sir, I have something to tell you." Zhou Yang was stunned and said, "Then let's talk face to face." As he said that, he turned on the holographic projection in the office. Fuchsie appeared, nodded to Zhou Yang, and waved his hand, and a figure appeared in front of him. "Who is this person?" Zhou Yang was also shocked when he saw the creature in front of him, who was short, had brown-red skin, and pointed ears. He was obviously not an Earthling. Fuchsie said, "If I say it's an alien, would you be surprised? What do you think?" Zhou Yang's expression changed again and again, and he asked in a serious tone, "What's going on?" As for whether aliens exist, Zhou Yang actually supports the existence of aliens. Judging from the universe that humans have explored now, the Earth is really too small. If the universe is compared to a person, then the Earth is probably a cell in the human body, or even not a cell, but the atoms that make up the cell. The appropriate distance from the stars allows the Earth to produce conditions suitable for the survival of organisms. According to probability theory, special conditions like the Earth and the entire universe, although very special, are obviously not special events in the entire universe. Therefore, there must be planets similar to the Earth that can breed life. In other words, some planets may be able to directly evolve organisms that adapt to harsh conditions. Therefore, Zhou Yang felt that there was no reason why there were no aliens. It's just that Zhou Yang didn't expect that aliens would appear so quickly. Facing aliens with unknown technological levels, we can't naively think that aliens come with good intentions, conquer planets, and serve the development of races. The universe should believe in the more tragic law of the jungle. Therefore, before the Earth has the power to protect itself, the appearance of aliens is not good news. At this time, Fuchsie also said with a puzzled look, "If I say that it was the aliens who took the initiative to contact me, would you find it strange?" Chapter 285 1,000 Miles Away Gift. Zhou Yang was stunned. "I contacted you on my own initiative. What's going on?" Fuchsie said, "Not long ago, I found someone invading our country's firewall. The technology is very powerful. What's incredible is that the other party was able to easily break through the firewall and sent me a message. Although the internet in Country Z is connected to the world, because Country Z has its own root server and policy reasons, it has set up a large server, which constitutes a similar existence to a large local area network. After the large-scale application of artificial intelligence, this national firewall will naturally be handed over to artificial intelligence for protection. Of course, it is not Fuchsie, but as the first artificial intelligence, Fuchsie also has the highest authority, so the following artificial intelligences have lower authority than Fuchsie, and Fuchsie can't know any problems." Fuchsie continued, "The general idea of the messages, that they came from an alien planet, and crashed in Country M in 1930, Area 51. Zhou Yang blurted out. Of course, he was not unfamiliar with this place, where there were aliens in the legend. Fuchsie nodded and said, "This alien, or more accurately, an intelligent program, calls himself the Red Queen." He said that it was not until yesterday that the M country opened the spacecraft and contacted her. As a result, she learned the language of the Earth and obtained a lot of information about the Earth by accessing the internet. Zhou Yang's eyes widened and said, "The M country contacted them and gave them access to the internet. Is Paramoran? How can he believe in aliens so easily? On Earth, different countries can fight with each other, not to mention aliens from different planets and civilizations and completely different races. Who knows what special purpose the aliens have, and it is extremely stupid to let them easily obtain information about the Earth." Fuchsie said, "I guess the M country is desperate because of the underground monster. It just so happens that the spaceship here was accidentally opened, so they are eager to contact the aliens and obtain alien technology from them." Zhou Yang smiled bitterly and shook his head. He was too lazy to complain about the M countryman and asked, "Then what? Does this intelligent program explain their current situation? Since the spaceship is opened, and it is also active, why don't they contact their companions directly? Is the communication system damaged? I remember you said before that their spaceship crashed." Fuchsie said, "She didn't say, but I guess there is such a possibility." Zhou Yang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If the communication system is damaged, it would be great. At least these aliens can't contact their companions. As long as they are still on Earth and can't contact their companions, they can be controlled, and there is no big problem. Then since she has contacted the M countryman, why did she contact us again? Zhou Yang asked curiously. Since this intelligent program has contacted people, it must have some demands. It is likely that the spaceship is damaged and wants to be repaired, but he is just an intelligent program and can't repair the spaceship. He can only seek help from external forces. Otherwise, if Zhou Yang was an alien and came with the intention of invading the Earth, there would be no reason for her to contact the Earthlings. Fuchsie had a strange expression on his face and said, "She said that, after collecting information on the internet, she felt that Country M was too weak, and Country Z was the most powerful country. She needed to cooperate with the Earthlings, but she must choose the most powerful country to cooperate with, so she contacted us. Zhou Yang blinked. Country M is too weak. Country Z is too strong. So she gave up the first country M to contact and chose to cooperate with country Z. If Per knew these words, he would probably be angry to death. After guarding the alien spaceship for more than 90 years, he finally opened the spaceship and contacted the aliens, but the aliens looked down on them and secretly contacted country Z. This was simply a great gift from country M. After thinking for a while, Zhou Yang frowned and asked, "Do you think the other party is really an intelligent program of an alien spacecraft? Is it possible that the talents of country M are behind all this, using this method to steal our technical information through cooperation? Forged an artificial intelligence, then made up a story, pretended to cooperate, and exchanged a bunch of messy technical information for the truly useful technical information of country Z. It is not impossible." Of course, Zhou Yang felt that the possibility was not great because the technical core of artificial intelligence was still firmly controlled by country Z. Fuxi was slightly stunned and said, "Then wait a moment. You want to invade the other party?" Zhou Yang immediately thought of what Fuxi was going to do. Fuxi nodded. Since the other party accessed from the internet, Fuxi could naturally invade the other party. After all, on the internet, artificial intelligence, especially the strongest artificial intelligence, Fuxi is absolutely a godlike existence. Soon, a picture appeared in front of Zhou Yang. The main body is a research base, and then in the center of the picture is a huge UFO. Really? Zhou Yang was shocked. Fuxi said, "Sir, there should be no problem. This should be a secret research base under Area 51. It should have been physically isolated, but this time it was open to the public in order to allow the alien intelligent program to access the internet. I found some information in their server. Basically, it can be inferred that the situation described by this intelligent program is true." Zhou Yang felt relieved a little and said that the United States did not have the technology to control artificial intelligence. After a pause, Zhou Yang said, "Then you should contact her first and find out her situation, such as what planet she came from, the situation of the spacecraft, etc." Fuxi nodded. But Zhou Yang still shook his head and said, "I guess I can't get anything out of her, and even if she really said it, I can't believe it completely." Fuxi said, "Then I'd better ask first." "Well, then I'll contact them now." Zhou Yang did not hesitate and immediately contacted Li Xianshu and told him about the matter. "What? Aliens? Is it true or not? Mr. Zhou, you are not kidding?" Li Xianshu exclaimed. Zhou Yang said, "Do you think I'm kidding you?" Li Xianshu was silent for a while and said, "Then, according to your wishes, let Fuxi contact her first, and I will report to my superiors." Zhou Yang hung up the phone. 10 minutes later, Zhou Yang had a video chat with the above and talked about his ideas. During this time, Zhou Yang also sorted out his thoughts. First of all, Zhou Yang speculated that there must be something wrong with the alien spacecraft, and the most important thing was that the communication system was damaged. This is very important. As long as the aliens cannot contact their companions directly, they are fish on the chopping board and can be slaughtered at will. Of course, Zhou Yang doesn't know whether the aliens have any means of self-protection. With this premise, Zhou Yang thinks that cooperation is also possible, or in other words, pretending to cooperate is necessary. Completely different races, a cold intelligent program. In Zhou Yang's view, holding the other party's goodwill to guess the other party's intentions can be said to be the most stupid behavior. Believing that the other party will not kill you, what else is this but a fool? Chapter 286 dropped by. During the whole meeting, no results were discussed, but the higher-ups still supported Zhou Yang's idea, moderate cooperation, and seeking benefits. The key is that the degree of this needs to be grasped well, and Zhou Yang gradually had some ideas of his own. At this time, Fuxi also joined the communication. "Just as you thought, no useful information was asked. She said they came from the Pegasus constellation, but I don't think it's credible. Then her purpose is very simple, just want us to help her repair the spacecraft. In return, she can give us some alien technology." Zhou Yang had guessed that this would be the result and said, "You want to cooperate, right? Okay, since you want to cooperate, then show some sincerity first. Tell him the direction of our controlled nuclear fusion and let her help us do a miniaturized research. If it succeeds, then talk about the next thing. At the same time, you can also tell him that we can also express some of our sincerity, such as snatching her from the M countrymen and bringing her to our country. Until now, Zhou Yang still has some doubts whether this is a disguise of the M countrymen. The information of those research bases and the huge spacecraft can be faked, as long as you are willing. So Zhou Yang tried controlled nuclear fusion. On the one hand, he did not reveal his research data, but only provided a research direction. If the other party really gave the data of controlled nuclear fusion, it must not be a disguise of the M country, because the M country has no research results in this area. Of course, if this alien can't even do controlled nuclear fusion, then there is no value in cooperation. Fuchsie nodded, and the data should have been sent over. About a few minutes later, Fuchsie nodded slightly and said, the other party agreed to send us the data matching the Earth's technology in half an hour. Zhou Yang was slightly surprised that he actually agreed. But before seeing the real research data, it was useless to say anything. About half an hour later, Fuchsie received the data. Mr. Zhou, the other party may really be an alien. Fuchsie said in shock. Oh, let me see the data. Zhou Yang got up quickly. A model of a fusion device appeared in front of him, with specific parameters and data, all very detailed. Zhou Yang got the relevant technical data from the system, but it was just a research outline. For example, research is like traveling. If you want to go to a far destination, you first need a map to know how to get there. The information provided by the system is equivalent to a map, telling you where your destination is and which direction you should go. But the specific way to get there, whether to walk or take a plane, and which is faster, these systems do not provide. And now the information that Hong Hao brought is to tell you clearly where to take a plane, how long it will take to get there, and the fastest speed. So even though Zhou Yang has completed the nuclear fusion device, in terms of miniaturization, specific magnetic field parameters, data and other information must be continuously studied. Have you verified it? Zhou Yang stepped forward and carefully examined the details of the fusion device. Fuchsie nodded and said, after calculation and simulation, there is a 173% probability that it is correct. But due to the lack of relevant experimental data, this is just a conjecture. Zhou Yang nodded and said, okay, send it to Mr. Zhou immediately and ask him to verify it as soon as possible. Okay. Fuchsie nodded, then asked, Red Queen has also made a request, hoping that we can bring their spacecraft to Country Z, because it feels that it is not necessarily safe in Country M. Zhou Yang said, what do you think about letting Red Queen provide some erroneous information to consume Country M's resources? Fuchsie was stunned and said, you mean, let Red Queen stay in Country M, provide some fake technology, let Country M study it, and consume their energy? But Zhou Yang had already shaken his head and said, forget it, there is no need for that. To deal with a dying enemy, there is no need to use such conspiracy and intrigue. As a dignified army, it is enough to crush it with the kingly way. Thinking of this, Zhou Yang called Li Xianshu directly. That's the situation. Now Red Queen wants us to bring it to Country Z. I think the same way. Since this spaceship is really an alien civilization, it must have some research value. It's better to have it in our own hands. Zhou Yang said. Li Xianshu nodded slightly and said, so what do you mean, just rob it? Zhou Yang smiled and said, how can this be called robbing directly? It can only be said to be robbing along the way. Zhou Yang suggested that they should accept Country M's request for help and send mechas to help them deal with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. While dealing with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, they should also go to Area 51 and bring back the alien spaceship. As for whether the people of Country M objected, their objection was invalid. Li Xianshu said, well, actually, the higher-ups are also considering that, after delaying the M country for a while, they will help them solve the problem of underground monsters. After all, a normal M country that does not threaten us is more in line with our interests. Zhou Yang nodded. He also thought so. Relying on these two Tyrannosaurus Rex, or a bunch of underground monsters, M country might be injured, but it would not collapse. And the collapse of M country is actually not in the interests of Z country. First of all, no one knows what crazy and hysterical things the collapsed country will do. Maybe seeing that it is going to end, it will directly launch a nuclear bomb and want to drag Z country to end together. Secondly, Z country is still developing rapidly. The country is under construction and many researches are underway, all of which require funds. The construction of virtual space and the establishment of alliance organizations have given Z country more voice in the international arena and can earn more benefits. In this case, as the second largest economy in the world, the existence of country M is very necessary. After all, there are hundreds of millions of people. Country Z's products must have market to make money. As far as Zhou Yang knows, the two underground monsters caused huge casualties, and Country Z made a lot of money by exporting repair fluids. Therefore, just like what is happening now, it continues to suck blood from Country M to make profits, and at the same time, it suppresses Country M militarily, so that Country M dare not go all in with Country Z, and slowly dies like a frog in warm water. When Country Z develops decisive weapons, such as spacecraft, and builds bases in space, it will not be afraid of your nuclear bombing at all. Then it will fight to the death, either surrender or get rid of you with a scalpel. Well, you guys can do it. There shouldn't be any problem with the information provided by Red Queen, so the problem of miniaturization of controlled nuclear fusion should be solved soon. Next, I will focus on completing the manufacturing of the second generation mecha, and I will leave other things for the time being. Li Xianshu nodded and said, "Thank you for your hard work. It's my duty." Zhou Yang smiled, and then remembered something, and said, "When you are free, come to the nuclear base. I have an idea to tell you." Chapter 287 How to be handsome. Pear was still waiting for the response of the Red Queen. He waited for a whole day. Why hasn't it been done for so long? A whole day has passed. Pear was a little annoyed. Fortunately, the two Tyrannosaurus Rex did not appear again. Otherwise Pear would be even more annoyed. Harry next to him advised, "The amount of information on the internet is amazing. Even if they are aliens, it will probably take a long time for them to fully understand our information." Pear curled his lips and said no more. At this time, the White House assistant suddenly came over and whispered in Pear's ear, "Sir, the Z government contacted us and is willing to provide mechas to help us eliminate the underground monsters." What? Pear stood up in an instant, first excited, then asked in confusion, why did they suddenly change their minds again? Before, Country Z had an attitude of "I don't have time, what can you do to me?" Did they make any requests? Pear asked. The assistant nodded and said, "They have made some trade demands, but they are not unacceptable. According to them, their compatriots were killed or injured in the disaster in Los Angeles, so they are willing to provide us with help for the sake of their compatriots. There are many Chinese in Los Angeles. Fake benevolence and false righteousness." Pear curled his lips, still muttering in his heart. According to his thinking, at this time, Country Z will definitely take the opportunity to blackmail Country M and make some excessive demands. In fact, Country Z also wanted to make some demands, but it really couldn't think of anything to ask for. Money, asking for tens of billions or trillions is meaningless, and it seems petty. Other demands, such as ceding a piece of land to me, are also impossible for Country M to agree to. So they made some insignificant trade demands, such as increasing tariffs on air products and reducing tariffs on Z products. The White House assistant asked, "Should we agree to their request?" "Nonsense, why not? Let's go back to the White House now. You should quickly organize a press conference for me and ask them to write a speech. Just say that with my efforts, we finally reached an agreement with Country Z and asked them to send out mechas to help us solve the problem of underground monsters." Pear said excitedly. This matter can be promoted as Pear's efforts to ask for help from Country Z and then solve the problem of underground monsters. It will definitely save some people's support. At least, the president can continue to serve. Harry next to him said blankly, "Mr. President, what about this?" Pear frowned and said, "Keep an eye on this. If there is any news, notify me as soon as possible. Even if we really get some alien technology from the aliens, it is unknown how long it will take to transform it into usable weapons. And the underground monsters will not wait for anyone. As the saying goes, distant water cannot quench near thirst." The most important thing is that country Z is willing to help. Soon, Pear didn't care about the big face slapping scene and personally delivered a speech to the whole country. He first mourned the victims and finally introduced in an excited tone that with his own efforts, he finally reached an agreement with Country Z and requested Country Z to send out mechas to help Country M solve the problem of underground monsters. As soon as the news came out, the whole country was excited. When Country Z said at the press conference that the mechas were not available, Country M also broke out some behaviors of resisting Country Z's products. Now these behaviors have disappeared in an instant. On the internet, there is even more praise. After all, it is Country Z, it is said that they are a country of etiquette and the oldest country in the world. Only in this time of crisis can they help us, Country M. Previously, those media comments said that Country Z would never help us, that Country Z and we are competitors, enemies, etc. I think it's all bullshit. Country Z is our best friend. That's right, we are in danger. There are monsters attacking us. You see so many countries in the world. Who is willing to help us? Only Country Z. To show solemnity, Country M's Pacific Fleet will arrive at the waters outside Country Z to personally pick up and deliver the mechas assisted by Country Z at the same time. The entire welcoming process will be broadcast live on television. And Pear will also hold a welcoming ceremony in Los Angeles to personally welcome the mechas of Country Z outside the waters of Country Z. The huge Pacific Fleet is quietly waiting on the high seas. Fleet Commander Charles stood on the deck and chatted with his deputy with a smile. Last time, we almost had a fight with the submarines of Country Z. I didn't expect that it would be so long before we cooperated with Country Z. Charles said with emotion. Cooperation. It shouldn't be considered cooperation. I heard that the White House agreed to many requests from Country Z in order to facilitate this cooperation. The deputy smiled bitterly. This is not called cooperation. It's called begging. Begging in a humble manner. Charles waved his hand indifferently and said, I have heard of what you said, and it's not a request. And you have to understand that it is not easy for Country Z to help us at this time. They can just sit back and watch those monsters wreak havoc in our country, so we should be grateful. The deputy rolled his eyes and said nothing more. I don't know what those mechas look like. I only saw pictures before. Charles said curiously. At this moment, Charles' eyes suddenly lit up and he pointed forward and said, here they come. A fleet also appeared on the distant skyline. The aircraft carrier fleet of Country Z. The same huge fleet, majestic and powerful, came through the waves. On the deck of Country Z's aircraft carrier, a row of 12 people stood quietly. Everyone was wearing black combat uniforms. The staff on the deck also looked at them curiously, with envy on their faces. These 12 people are mecha pilots, carefully selected by the entire army, the elite among the elites. In the past, in the army, the soldiers wanted to become pilots the most, and even become pilots of J-20. But now, the biggest dream of all soldiers is to become a mecha pilot. Who makes mecha so handsome? Let's go. Let the world see how powerful our mechas of Country Z are. A general said to the 12 people. Make sure to complete the mission. The 12 people saluted. Get on board. The captain of the 12 people was called Hu Tao, or Thin Man. He shouted loudly and led everyone to the 12 mechas on the deck. Each mecha is painted red with a half-body 5-clawed golden dragon, majestic and domineering. This time, the purpose is also to show the power of mecha to the world. 12 people boarded the mecha and started it. Captain, are we going to use the laser sword later? A team member asked in the communication channel. If I say so, we will use it. If I don't use it, it will feel a bit awkward without holding something in my hands. That's right, it seems a little uncool. The 12 mechas that went out on this expedition were not equipped with cold weapons, but they were equipped with dual laser swords, which were more powerful. Hu Tao smiled and said, then use it. After all, we are showing our faces, so we can do it as coolly as possible. Chapter 288 Show. All the people in M country were basically watching the live broadcast at home at this time. Is this the aircraft carrier fleet of Z country? It feels no worse than ours. Of course, their military strength is also top notch, not to mention that they now have mechas. It is no exaggeration to say that they have the strongest military strength in the world. What about mechas? Haven't they appeared yet? I have only seen pictures of mechas before. They are really cool. Yes, it is simply the ultimate fantasy of human weapons. I don't know when our country will have such mechas. Don't think about it. I don't think we will have them for at least 30 years. At this time, in the picture, above the aircraft carrier of Z country that was slowly stopping in the distance, 12 figures suddenly soared into the sky. The blue sky and white clouds, the rippling blue waves, 12 red mechas soared into the sky, and the thrusters under them emitted a faint blue flame. What's more handsome is that these mechas all held laser swords in both hands and stepped into the air. Seeing this scene, many Star Wars fans were most excited. It's a lightsaber, the lightsaber from Star Wars. Oh my god, is this really a lightsaber? There were reports before that Country Z has developed a lightsaber, but I didn't believe it. Now I know it's true. This is too cool. I just want to ask, does Country Z sell it? I'm willing to buy it, no matter how much it costs. 12 mechas, holding laser swords, drew a perfect curve in the air. In the camera lens, they landed on the deck of the aircraft carrier of Country M with one knee on the ground. The 12 mechas actually maintained the formation when they set off. With the collision of the cover armor and the subtle sound of the internal machinery running, the 12 mechas stood up straight. In the sun, the half-body golden dragon reflected the brilliant golden light. It was so handsome that it had no friends. And this scene was perfectly frozen by the camera. If nothing unexpected happens, all the newspapers in M will replace this picture tomorrow. Charles looked at the 12 mechas with a dull expression, and there was more envy in his eyes. The other soldiers on the deck also had similar expressions. This thing is so cool, it satisfies all human fantasies. After a while, Charles stepped forward to welcome Hu Tao and others. Hello, on behalf of the people of Country M, I welcome you, and thank you for your selfless assistance. Charles said excitedly. Hu Tao put away his laser sword, his mask popped open, smiled and shook hands with Charles, saying, "Thank you, this is what we should do." Holding the handful of metal, Charles was so excited that he trembled all over and couldn't help but whispered, "Can I try on your mecha? I know my request is too much, but your mecha is so beautiful, it's like a work of art." Hu Tao was slightly stunned, and also smiled and said, "I would like to, but I'm afraid you can't wear it with your body shape." Charles was stunned, looking at his big belly, and instantly became a little autistic. The welcoming ceremony was over. After the camera was turned off, the mecha was sealed again, and the battery compartment and mounted weapon system were all sent up again. The Pacific Fleet also set off for the nearest M military base, where 2 large transport planes will be waiting for Hu Tao and his team. In other words, Hu Tao and his team will not take the aircraft carrier fleet to M country. All of this before was just a show. M country was willing to cooperate with the request of Z country to boost the confidence of the M country people. The main thing is that it will take at least 10 days to cross the Pacific Ocean at the speed of the aircraft carrier fleet, and Pair can't wait that long. After the early morning of the next day, the transport plane arrived in M country. However, Hu Tao and his team did not start the action, but wanted to reboard the ship and then participate in the welcoming ceremony organized by Pair at the military port. It was another show. Anyone with a little bit of brains could understand that it was impossible for the warship to cross the Pacific Ocean and arrive in M country overnight. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the huge port area of the port of Los Angeles was flooded with tens of thousands of people, and outside the port area, there were also people, all of whom came to watch the mecha. Even Pair organized some local expatriates to come to the port area to participate in the event under the organization of the Z country embassy. Pair himself and a group of senior officials also arrived at the scene early. In the distance, above the sea, accompanied by a long whistle, an aircraft carrier that had completed its routine port inspection was also temporarily pulled over to transport 12 mechas. Alas, old M really loves to show off. One time is not enough, so he comes again. Is he going to have another celebration ceremony after killing the monster? Hu Tao smiled and said, "Okay, stop complaining. There will be our compatriots in the port area later. We are doing this to give our compatriots face. Don't worry, "Captain, it's just a pose, it's nothing." Everyone was in a relaxed mood, but they were still fully armed. When the time was about right, they soared into the sky at the same time. At the port, Pear and others had already seen the 12 mechas taking off from the aircraft carrier in the distance. What a perfect weapon. Pear couldn't help but sigh. This thing is so handsome that it has no friends. There is no country that doesn't want it. Sir, do you think we should wait until the mission is completed and then we secretly seize a mecha and say that it was killed in the battle with the underground monster? This should be easy to operate, the Minister of Defense said in a low voice. Pear's eyes suddenly lit up, but after a while he shook his head and said, "Forget it. I'm afraid that, if I really do this, more mechas will appear in Country M tomorrow and kill me." The Minister of Defense was stunned and stopped talking. Pear was afraid, and he was afraid too. 12 mechas broke through the air and were about to approach. The atmosphere here was also at its most enthusiastic, especially the overseas Chinese, who were so excited that they couldn't help but cheer loudly. Pear was about to speak when suddenly the ground shook violently. "What's going on? Is it an earthquake?" Pear's face changed drastically. Everyone present also exclaimed. The next moment, accompanied by a loud rumbling sound and a roar that broke through the sky, a huge head suddenly appeared on the ground outside the port area. "Monster! It's a monster! The monster is coming!" Countless people at the scene exclaimed in panic. Pear was almost scared silly. He had already felt terrified when he saw these 200-meter tall Tyrannosaurus Rex on TV before. Now that they were so close, only about 1 kilometer away, he felt even more huge and terrifying. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. In the distance, the Secret Service was about to rush over, ready to take Pear away. Hu Tao and others who were in the air were also stunned. "Hey, isn't this a monster? Did it know we were coming and was preparing to come out to greet us?" Hu Tao's expression was serious, and his eyes fell on the port area in the distance. There were more than 10,000 people in the port area, and they were already in a panic. "Don't talk, there are too many civilians. Go, Wu Zhao, you lead a group, attack." "Yes." Full thrusters, action. In an instant, the speed of the 12 mechas suddenly increased, like a sharp arrow, breaking through the air and rushing towards the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the distance. Chapter 289, Facing the Power of Mecha. 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex emerged from the ground and roared to the sky. After a few days of recovery, the bodies that had been severely injured before had recovered a lot. The tail of the male Tyrannosaurus Rex that was blown off actually grew back a little. There were already a large number of people watching outside the port area. When the Tyrannosaurus Rex emerged, no one knew how many people were killed. Now in a panic, the crowd fled frantically, and no one knew how many people died in the stampede. The situation was similar in the port area. Fear was contagious. With so many people gathered together, once the pot exploded, it would be a disaster. Pellet and other senior officials also ran wildly, but there was no escape. The location where the Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared was exactly the exit of the port area. When they ran out, they ran into the Tyrannosaurus Rex. "Mech, look, the Mech is out." At this time, the Minister of Defense suddenly shouted. Pellet and others were stunned and hurriedly looked up and saw that the 12 Mechas that were originally preparing to land in the air suddenly accelerated, like a series of phantoms, rushing towards the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the distance. "Yes, we still have mechas. Oh my god, if it weren't for the mechas this time, we would all be dead." Pear was also trembling with fear. If there were no mechas, the Tyrannosaurus Rex would block this place, and no one would be able to escape unless they jumped into the sea and swam. 12 mechas rushed straight to the Tyrannosaurus Rex. "Sickle killing formation." Hu Tao shouted, and the 5 mechas behind him adjusted their postures instantly. "Target, the female Tyrannosaurus Rex. Action." Hu Tao shouted, with his 2 swords across, and rushed to the eyes of the female Tyrannosaurus Rex. As for the remaining 5 people, 1 followed behind Hu Tao, the remaining 2 rushed to the neck of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the last 2 rushed to the ankles. The so-called sickle killing formation is actually very simple. That is, the mechas move quickly and cut in the form of a death sickle, sweeping across the vital parts of the target. This is the first time for these 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex to face mechas. I'm afraid that in their eyes, mechas are like flies, and they don't take them seriously at all. But they probably never dreamed that this mecha the size of a fly had the power to kill them. Swish. 6 blue lights passed through the void, and the laser sword in his hand was horizontal at his side, faintly drawing a light curtain, passing through the vital parts of the female Tyrannosaurus Rex at high speed and precision. Where the laser sword pointed, there was no obstruction at all, and the thick leather armor of the Tyrannosaurus Rex could not withstand the power of the laser sword. Blood was gushing, and the laser sword with a length of nearly 2 meters could directly cut a 2-meter deep wound. On the head, Hu Tao accurately passed through the eyes under the Tyrannosaurus Rex's brow bone, slightly bent, avoided the eye socket, and left in style. His companions did the same thing. 4 blood arrows shot out at the neck and ankle at the same time. The female Tyrannosaurus Rex screamed miserably, her legs trembled, and she was about to fall down with a rumble. On the other side, the group led by Wu Xiao also used the same method to instantly cause the same damage to the male Tyrannosaurus Rex. With a whoosh, Hu Tao controlled his body, turned his body in the air, and stopped. In front of him, 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex knelt on their knees, but had not yet completely fallen. "Keep going," Hu Tao shouted, and rushed out again. The people in the port area and the live broadcast camera of the helicopter in the sky also faithfully recorded this scene, and many people burst into cheers. "Is this a mecha? It's so powerful. Look, it only took 1 strike, and it caused heavy damage to the monster." At first I thought that the mecha was so small, could it deal with such a big monster? Now I know how wrong I was. This mecha is too powerful. That's right, it's just like Iron Man, invincible. Per and others didn't run away. Anyway, they couldn't run away. They watched the mecha and the Tyrannosaurus Rex fighting from a distance, and their feelings were extremely complicated. Seeing that the mecha was so powerful and saved them, they also wanted to cheer, but this thing happened to be from Country Z, and the feeling in their hearts was mixed. After a confrontation, the eyes of the Tyrannosaurus Rex were blinded. Facing the attacks of Hu Tao and others, they were powerless to resist. 12 mechas moved nimbly in the air, leaving wounds on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Walls of death. Various killing moves were used continuously. Each mecha was transformed into a martial arts master, attacking continuously. Mechas are not quite the same as humans. It may take a long time for humans to learn the same skills, but mechas are different. They can learn in minutes. Therefore, a mecha combat skill database has been specially established in China. The mecha pilots can create independently and then solidify the killing moves and upload them to the database. In this way, new mecha pilots only need to download the data from the database to train and master these combat skills. For example, Walls of Death was uploaded by Zubin. Now this database has taken shape and has more than 50 combat skills. Under continuous attacks, although the Tyrannosaurus Rex has strong vitality, it can't resist. Hu Tao turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the female Tyrannosaurus Rex. The female Tyrannosaurus Rex could not see and could only bite aimlessly. It was also a coincidence that she suddenly opened her mouth and bit Hu Tao. Compared with this bloody mouth, Hu Tao was as small as an ant. Many people in the port area couldn't help but scream, "Danger, get out of the way." Some expatriates shouted loudly, trying to remind Hu Tao. But at this moment, Hu Tao, who was moving quickly, suddenly turned downward and avoided the bloody mouth. Then his body spun wildly, like a light curtain whirlwind, passing over the chest of the female Tyrannosaurus Rex. Walls of Death. The only special combat skill rated as 3 stars in the database. Even with the assistance of artificial intelligence, it cannot be used without strong physical fitness and fighting skills. A horrible wound appeared on the body of the female Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was as long as 40 or 50 meters. Blood rushed out, and some organs flowed out of the wound. The female Tyrannosaurus let out a whine, fell to the ground, and never got up again. On the other side, the group led by Wu Xiao also entered the final stage. After causing enough damage to the male Tyrannosaurus, the 6 people soared into the sky and took out laser guns at the same time. Laser bullets broke through the air and bombarded the Tyrannosaurus. In a moment, the male Tyrannosaurus was beaten into a sieve. In just over a minute, the two monsters caused huge civilian casualties, and the two underground monsters, that once had the world's strongest military power, were strangled by the mechas in minutes, without even a chance to escape. At this moment, all the people of M country, as well as people around the world, who were paying attention to this welcoming ceremony, had a direct understanding of the true combat power of the mechas. 12 mechas folded in the air and landed on the stage prepared for them in advance. With a bang, the ground shook slightly and the 12 mechas landed and stood up again. Under the sunlight, the mechas stained with the blood of the monsters were even more fierce and murderous. Chapter 290. When did you tell me? The next moment, the scene erupted in huge cheers and applause, which lasted for a long time. Hu Tao and others watched all this quietly, motionless. Captain, do we have to go back just after we arrived? That's right, we just came here and haven't even landed yet, but we have already completed the task. Hu Tao remained silent. After a long while, he slowly said, look, they are so ignorant. Many team members looked at the expressions of these M countrymen in front of them, just like the expressions of the Z countrymen when they saw the high-tech weapons of the M country. It was as if a new world had been opened up, and they knew that there were such powerful weapons in the world. Times have changed. Z country. At the nuclear base, Zhou Yang stared at the assembly workshop in front of him. In the dust-free and constant temperature workshop, several robot arms were carrying out the final assembly of the small nuclear fusion generator. Zhu Jindang next to him looked excited and said with emotion, the technology of these aliens is really amazing, and maybe this kind of technology is not a particularly powerful technology in their civilization. I really don't know how powerful their civilization will be. Zhou Yang did not hide the matter of the Red Queen from Zhu Jindang. When the alien spacecraft is pulled back, Zhu Jindang will definitely participate in the research of the alien spacecraft. Zhou Yang said, different civilizations have different development processes. You have to think about how many years our Earth has existed, and how many years have passed since the prosperity of modern technology. The universe has existed for so many years, hundreds or thousands of years, but it is just a grain of sand in the Ganges River. So there is no need to belittle ourselves. Sooner or later, we will reach the level of alien civilization. Even if there is no alien spacecraft, Zhou Yang is confident that he can complete the development of the second generation mecha within the specified time and obtain the technical data of the spacecraft. By then, mankind will truly go into deep space. Zhou Yang's eyes have long been looking at the void of the universe. Everyone smiled at each other, and Zhu Jindang said with emotion, Mr. Zhao, you have a far-sighted vision. I, an old man, can't compare with you. What do you mean you are old? If you count at 120 years old, you are only middle-aged now. At this time, Wang Songwen asked curiously, why do you think these aliens look almost the same as us? I thought they looked like in the movies, with a big head and many tentacles. How are they the same? I think they are completely different, a researcher nearby retorted. Wang Songwen said, how are they different? At least they all have 2 hands and 2 feet, and a head. Zhou Yang smiled and said, this is a good topic. This spaceship crashed on Earth. I estimate there must be alien corpses in it. We can collect some samples for research later. Maybe they are a bit similar to human genes. Maybe they were one family billions of years ago. Zhu Jindang also smiled and said, it is said that the Earth has existed for 4.6 billion years. Many people speculate that it must have experienced many civilizations in the middle. Maybe these aliens are the first generations of Earthlings who migrated away from the Earth. It's possible. Zhou Yang nodded and said, but I think that, although the evolution of life is probabilistic, the reason why the world has become what it is, and the reason why we have become what we are now, is also inevitable. Then it is not surprising that aliens evolve according to the will of heaven, and evolve into appearances similar to us. While chatting, Li Xiaoyu suddenly came over and said, Sir, directly is here. It will take some time to assemble this side, and it is only the first step now. The key fusion material has not been injected yet. Keep an eye on it. Call me anytime if you have any questions. Zhou Yang gave an instruction and returned to his office. Mr. Zhao. Li Xianshu greeted him with a smile. Zhou Yang asked Li Xianshu to sit down and casually asked, by the way, How is the mecha that went to assist country M going? Is it going smoothly? Speaking of the mecha that went out, Li Xianshu couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, it went smoothly, and it went too smoothly. Why? Li Xianshu said, Country M organized a welcoming ceremony at the port, but before our people landed, the 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared, and they happened to be at the port. What can we do? We had to kill the Tyrannosaurus Rex on the spot. Zhou Yang was stunned and said, that means that the 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex have been killed now, and the mission is accomplished. Yes, these few days, they are temporarily staying in Country M according to them. They have a lot of fish and meat every day, and they are often invited to banquets, and appear on TV shows. Li Xianshu said. Zhou Yang was also a little speechless, and said, this is a coincidence. Waving his hand, Zhou Yang said, forget it, you just need to pull the spaceship back to me. As he said that, Zhou Yang tapped the keyboard, and the holographic projection projected a huge model. Ecological base system. What is this? Li Xianshu couldn't help but exclaimed. The holographic projection in front of him was a semicircle, and the outer semicircular sphere was half unfolded, revealing the internal structure, and inside was a huge city. Mr. Zhao, are you going to build another city? But since you want to build a city, why do you need a shell? Li Xianshu said with some confusion. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, because this city is built in space. Space base. Li Xianshu exclaimed again and asked quickly, do we have this technology now? Although rockets can go to the sky, space stations have been built in the universe, and even heading to Mars and the moon, Li Xianshu still feels that the space base is too far away. Zhou Yang said, of course the technology is not mature yet, but we can start preparing to build an alien base in the next 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. Li Xianshu's mind went blank. So fast? Zhou Yang nodded and said, to build such a space base, the first technology we need to break through is the thruster. In other words, we need a platform to send enough materials into space. Using rockets alone will definitely not work. The thrust and speed are not enough, and our research direction is the curvature engine. Li Xianshu widened his eyes again and said, curvature engine, what is this? Have we already studied this thing? He had never heard of Zhou Yang conducting research in this area. Of course we have studied it. Yi Rongming's team has been doing research, waiting for a breakthrough in controlled nuclear fusion technology. Originally, a breakthrough in controlled nuclear fusion might take several months, but now that we have obtained the technology from Red Queen, it should be soon, so the construction of the curvature engine should also be put on the agenda. Besides, didn't I tell you that the second generation mecha we are going to develop now can also operate in the universe? Li Xianshu looked at Zhou Yang blankly, with only one thought in his mind. When did you tell me? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291. The step is too big. Coming back to his senses, Li Xianshu asked blankly, Mr. Zhao, you always talk about the second generation mecha, and the current Dragon Soul is only the first generation mecha. So what exactly is your second generation mecha like? Didn't I say that? Zhou Yang was stunned. Li Xianshu nodded. Zhou Yang had been talking about researching the second generation mecha, but Zhou Yang did not provide any clear indicators and reports on what the second generation mecha would be like. The superiors had complete trust in Zhou Yang, so they did not ask, leaving it all up to Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang thought carefully, and it seemed that he had never submitted any research ideas for the second generation mecha, nor any reports on technical indicators, etc. Anyway, if there was no money, he would ask the superiors for it. If he needed a team, he would just tell the superiors directly. Since the superiors did not ask, Zhou Yang also subconsciously ignored this matter. This is what happened. Zhou Yang was at a loss for words, and quickly called up the design drawings of the second generation mecha. Under the holographic projection, a mecha that was slightly different from the Dragon Soul appeared in front of Li Xianshu. The size was similar, and in appearance, although there were some subtle differences, the difference was not that big. This is the second generation mecha. Is there any difference from the Dragon Soul? Li Xianshu asked curiously as he stepped forward to check it out. Zhou Yang introduced. The biggest difference is, of course, the power. The reason why we have been studying the miniaturization of controlled nuclear fusion is to load controlled nuclear fusion on the second generation mecha. In other words, the second generation mecha will have almost unlimited energy. So that's how it is. I was wondering why you have been conducting miniaturization research after the development of controlled nuclear fusion. At that time, I thought you were going to install it on some special platform. Li Xianshu suddenly realized. At the same time, Li Xianshu was also shocked. If controlled nuclear fusion is used as an energy source, then this mecha will no longer be like the Dragon Soul, which has to carry a battery compartment to fight. Zhou Yang said, you also know the research progress of controlled nuclear fusion. It is about to succeed, and we have verified the relevant technology on Xingshan, so this problem has basically been solved. The rest is the outer covering material. Compared with the Earth, the space environment is more complex. It has to withstand ultra-high temperature, ultra-low temperature, and strong radiation environment, so better protection is needed. Here we will use the austenitic superalloy we are currently developing. This is why we have to collect element 120, and the purpose is austenitic superalloy. Li Xianshu suddenly realized again, and then he understood why Zhou Yang had to go to country E to study ultra-deep drilling and bring up the hidden danger of underground monsters. Zhou Yang said, then there is a weapon system, that is, the laser sword. We have completed the development of this, so I won't say more. Li Xianshu nodded. Of course he knew that the laser sword had been successfully developed, and the Dragon Soul had already used it. Then there is the engine. Our mecha must have a higher speed to move in space. Simple particle thrusters cannot reach the speed we can cross the planet, so we need a faster engine, that is, a curvature engine. I won't tell you more about the specific theoretical principles. I'll just tell you that the final form of the curvature engine should be infinitely close to the speed of light. The speed of light. Li Xianshu exclaimed. That is close to 300,000 kilometers per second. Zhou Yang said, of course, this is the ultimate goal of our research and development, but I think it should not be achieved in a short time. The first generation of curvature engine can reach a speed of 1% of the speed of light, which is already very good. Li Xianshu quickly did mental calculations. The speed of light is 300,000 kilometers per second, 1% is 3,000 kilometers per second, 3,600 seconds per hour. The speed can reach 10.8 million kilometers per hour. Li Xianshu was instantly shocked by this number. Zhou Yang said, for example, the distance between the Earth and Mars is about 55 million kilometers. In that case, it would take more than 4 hours to reach Mars. And the distance between the Earth and the Moon is close to 380,000 kilometers. It would take 2 to 3 minutes to reach there. Li Xianshu opened his mouth wide, his mind blank in shock. It was too exaggerated to reach the Moon in 2 to 3 minutes. Zhou Yang ignored how shocked Li Xianshu was, and continued to introduce. The last thing is the life support system. In fact, this aspect is also very difficult. If it is just to simply build a life support system, it must be simple. The Dragon Soul can be upgraded, but the life support system of the Dragon Soul is maintained by carrying resources. For example, I need oxygen, which is prepared by chemical reactions. If it is just a short distance, then of course there is no problem, but if we want to rush out of the solar system and take a long journey of several months or even years, it will definitely not be enough if we have limited resources. Then here, it involves the conversion of energy and matter. In theory, matter can be converted through energy. In other words, we can create things out of thin air and synthesize the substances we want through energy. For example, if there is a lack of water, we can directly synthesize water at the atomic level. Of course, this is a very far-reaching thing. At this stage, mechas do not need such advanced technology. After all, they are just mechas, not spaceships. Li Xianshu came back to his senses and couldn't help saying, Mr. Zhao, you think too far. Energy creates matter. With unlimited energy, you can have unlimited matter. Everything can be created out of thin air. That is a technology that only a highly developed civilization can possess. Zhou Yang is now thinking about this kind of problem. Li Xianshu really can't imagine it. After calming down, Li Xianshu said, in fact, according to what you said, we now have the technical conditions to manufacture the second generation mecha you mentioned. Zhou Yang nodded and said, yes, we can complete it in at most half a year. Li Xianshu opened his mouth again, and his scalp numbed. I thought this second generation mecha was just a concept proposed by Zhou Yang, but I didn't expect it to be completed in another half a year. What about this space base? Li Xianshu looked at the space base next to him again. Zhou Yang said, it is foreseeable that after we develop the second generation of mechas, we will definitely go to the moon or Mars to develop resources, controllable nuclear fusion, and the possibility of technological improvement, that is, the fusion of deuterium and H3. As you should know, H3 only exists on the moon, so we must build a large base on the moon to mine H3 resources for a long time. Li Xianshu took a deep breath. In recent years, Country Z has been conducting space research, building space stations, and sending satellites to the moon. The goal, of course, is to land on the moon, just like Country M did at the beginning. Now it seems that this goal will take some time, and Zhou Yang is actually preparing to build a large base on the moon. It is said that research is done step by step, but Zhou Yang's step is too big. Chapter 292 Thinking Too Far Ahead. Li Xianshu couldn't help but said, Mr. Zhao, are we thinking too far ahead? Many technologies have been researched, but have not yet been fully developed and utilized. For example, controlled nuclear fusion is now only used in Kaiming City, and there are only plans to build controlled nuclear fusion bases in a few node cities in China to relieve energy pressure. Internationally, it has only agreed to help Country E build controlled nuclear fusion. There are many more technologies that have not been promoted in time, and Zhou Yang has even begun to develop a space base. Is this the rhythm of moving the entire human race to outer space? I don't know if it's far away, but since we have already done this, it is necessary to go on. Science and technology are developing, and there is no reason to artificially interrupt the development of science and technology. Zhou Yang also knew what Li Xianshu was thinking. The development of science and technology on Earth is really too fast. Li Xianshu thought so too and said, okay, I'll listen to you. Just tell me what you want me to do. Zhou Yang said, you don't need to do anything now, but the establishment of a space base can represent our true journey to the universe, so many things have to change. For example, we have to start planning now, prepare to build a space army, prepare resources to build a space base, and so on. I will ask Fuxi to prepare a detailed report document for these things. Then you can study it carefully and find experts to discuss and prove it. Li Xianshu smiled bitterly and said, you are the greatest expert in this kind of unknown things. Where can we find experts to prove your things? Zhou Yang laughed. Indeed, what he is studying now, not to say that there are no experts in the world who can understand it, but it is not far behind. Li Xianshu did not stay for long. With Zhou Yang's idea, he quickly left the nuclear base and reported to his superiors. On the M countryside, Hu Tao and others were also ready to carry out the next plan. Go deep underground to explore the situation of the underground world on the M countryside. In order to ensure the safety of the collection of element 120 minerals, the underground world of Country E has long been explored clearly by 500 mechas. It is similar to what Zhou Yang expected. The entire space is not very large, about 13,000 square kilometers. 13,000 square kilometers is certainly large, about the same size as BJ City, but compared to the entire Earth, it is really small, and not worth mentioning. Therefore, in Zhou Yang's view, this is a crack in the ground, and these underground creatures survive in the crack. However, although the area is not large, it still forms a unique ecological environment due to the special geographical structure. There are plants, and most of the underground monsters are herbivores, and a very small number of underground monsters feed on herbivorous underground monsters, which constitutes a natural cycle as a whole. What is the situation in Country M? Zhou Yang speculates that the underground space will only be larger, because in order to feed underground monsters of the level of Tyrannosaurus Rex, it must require a larger living space and more food. However, the mission of Hu Tao and others is not to kill all the underground creatures, but to cooperate with the United States to explore the underground space. The final idea of the United States is to completely block the underground passage. Pear and others personally accompanied Hu Tao and others to the abandoned town where the drilling was located. This place has been completely under martial law. Some NASA scientists have been waiting here early. This time, NASA plans to place a large sonar device, combined with 3D mapping functions, to explore the entire underground space. However, these equipment can only be transported by Hu Tao and others, and they have to be started. The person in charge of NASA is called Anatol, a middle-aged man dressed in a white coat and dressed as a scientist. When he saw the dragon soul, he was so excited that he trembled all over. It's perfect. It's really perfect. Anatol came to Hu Tao's side, carefully stroked the armor covering the dragon soul, and kept praising him. Hu Tao felt sick, and he didn't know whether to hide or not, so he asked quickly, "Then when do we start?" Pear couldn't bear to see Anato's ugly appearance. It was too embarrassing. He coughed lightly and woke Anato up. "Well, we have prepared the things, and we just need you to help us send them underground." Anato pointed to an instrument more than 1 meter high and said, "This should be a sonar device." Hu Tao didn't waste any words. He put on his mask and picked up the instrument alone. Together with the other team members, he jumped directly into the huge cave formed when the Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared. The group continued to fall, and soon, as expected, they arrived at the underground world. "Captain, this place is similar to that of Country E." Hu Tao looked around. It was dark, and he fired a flare. The light of the flare illuminated a space similar to the underground world of Country E. Huge stalactite columns supported the entire space. There was also huge vegetation below. "Let's start. Be alert." Hu Tao didn't waste any words and fell down. The instrument was started to detect the entire space. During the journey, no underground monsters appeared, but even if they did, they were probably here to deliver food. In the next few days, Hu Tao and others cooperated with Country M to detect the entire underground space. The whole process was uneventful. They encountered some underground monsters, but they were all killed cleanly by Hu Tao and others. According to the detection, the underground space of Country M is indeed larger than that of Country E, estimated to be around 30,000 square kilometers. 5 days later, the detection mission was completed. What the people of Country M planned to do next, whether to completely block the hole or something else, Hu Tao didn't care. He still had a main task to complete, that is, to take away the alien spacecraft. According to the plan, Country Z will send a large transport ship to Country M to pick up Hu Tao and others. At this time, it has been 12 days since Hu Tao and others came to Country M. The transport ship of Country Z has arrived at the port of Los Angeles and is waiting quietly. Of course, transporting Hu Tao and others is secondary. The main purpose is to take away the alien spacecraft. After all, this is a spaceship with a diameter of 40 meters. No transport plane can transport it, and it can only rely on ships. Country M also prepared a farewell ceremony. The night before, Hu Tao and others were ready to act. Without saying hello to Country M, a group of 12 people put on mechas, fully armed, and threw all the extra equipment to the embassy, and then took the van arranged by the embassy to Area 51. A few hours later, the truck arrived at the outskirts of Area 51. Going further, it should enter the military restricted area, and will be discovered. Action. Hu Tao nodded to the team members, closed the mask, jumped out of the van, and plunged into the endless darkness. Chapter 293. We are carrying out a confidential mission. With the core military base of Area 51 as the center point, the area of 30 kilometers is designated as a military restricted area. There are also radars and other equipment in the military base to monitor the surroundings. The radar has responded. "Hey, what the hell is this?" The soldier on duty in the radar station immediately found a full 12 targets that appeared in the radar scanning range. The officer on duty came over to take a look. From the outline of the radar, he couldn't see much, and the speed was a bit slow. "Is this a private plane?" The officer frowned. If it was a fighter, the speed must be faster than this. This speed can only be achieved by backward propeller planes. The soldier said, "They are approaching quickly. Do you want to launch missiles to intercept them?" "There are anti-aircraft missiles in the base." The officer hesitated for a moment and hurried to the outside of the radar station to observe with a high-power telescope. At such a close distance, it can actually be observed under visual conditions. After searching for a while, the officer noticed some moving light spots that were approaching quickly. What the hell is this? The officer frowned and looked intently. When the target approached, he gradually saw it clearly. Fuck, it's a mecha from Country Z. The officer exclaimed. During this period, the mechas of Country Z were the most famous thing in Country M. It can be said that everyone knew about them. Although they were in the remote Area 51, they still knew about the situation in the outside world. What? It's a mecha. How did they come here? I don't know, and I haven't received any notification about it. But this mecha is really cool. It can actually fly. I really don't know how it does it. While the few people were talking, the 12 mechas had already approached the military base. When everyone hesitated, the 12 mechas had already fallen from the sky and landed accurately in the center of the military base. Although it was late at night, there were still soldiers on duty in the base. Faced with the sudden appearance of the mecha, everyone was a little unresponsive and stayed where they were. Captain, what should we do next? What if these American soldiers attack us? Should we fight back? Nonsense, they attacked us first. Why shouldn't we fight back? Hu Tao coughed lightly and shouted, "Shut up, everyone, and follow my command." After that, he took the initiative to greet them. Colonel Adrian, the commander of the base, had been alarmed long ago and rushed out in a hurry. Hu Tao swaggered to greet them. "Hello," Hu Tao said directly, and the artificial intelligence translated it into English. Adrian looked at the mighty mecha that was more than 2 meters tall, nodded blankly, and hurriedly said, "Hello, hello, what are you doing?" Hu Tao interrupted Adrian and said, "We received an order from our superiors to come here to carry out a confidential mission." Confidential mission? Adrian was shocked. Hu Tao nodded, stepped on the ground, and said, "Yes, we are going to take away the spaceship underground." What? Adrian exclaimed again, not expecting that Hu Tao actually knew about the spaceship underground. However, when Hu Tao said this, Adrian believed it for the most part, because the matter of the UFO underground was highly confidential and very few people knew about it. Hu Tao knew about it, so he must have mission. But why do you want to take that thing away? Where do you want to take it? Adrian asked subconsciously. Hu Tao said coldly, "This is confidential. You don't have the authority to know." Adrian was shocked and frightened. He nodded quickly and said, "I'm talking too much. Then I'll take you there now. Then let's go." Hu Tao waved to the team members, signaling to follow, and then he took the initiative to walk to the elevator not far away. It was as if he had known that the elevator was in this place. Seeing this, Adrian believed Hu Tao's words even more, but there was still a faint doubt in his heart. That is, while let the Z country's mecha carry out the task of taking away the alien spacecraft. Could it be that they were afraid that the aliens would attack the M country, so they asked the Z country's mecha to help? After all, only mecha could possibly deal with aliens. In fact, at this time, Adrian also wanted to contact the White House to confirm Hu Tao's order, but facing such a powerful weapon as the mecha, Adrian was a little afraid in his subconscious, and he forgot about it. Thinking of this, the two came to the elevator. Adrian opened the elevator. The elevator was not very big, and it was difficult for 2 mechas to squeeze in. "Let's go." Hu Tao stepped into the elevator boldly, and at the same time, signaled other team members to be on guard above. Adrian followed. At the same time, in the underground secret base, Harry and others were still bored waiting for the reaction of the Red Queen. Although nearly half a month had passed, Harry and others were still patient for their work. Being able to stay in the dark underground base for decades was amazing patience. And in Harry's opinion, there was so much information on the Earth, and it would definitely take a lot of time for the Red Queen to understand it all. At this time, the elevator opened, and Hu Tao and Adrian walked down. Seeing the dragon soul, the researchers on the scene all widened their eyes. Harry rubbed his eyes hard and said in disbelief, "Oh my god, is this a mecha? It's from Country Z, my god, it's so cool." Harry completely forgot to ask why the mecha appeared here. He excitedly came up to it and surrounded the dragon soul. He wanted to touch it but didn't dare. He was so excited that he kept jumping on the spot. The other researchers had a similar reaction and surrounded it. Adrian coughed lightly and said, "They are here to carry out a secret mission and take this spaceship away." "What?" Harry came back to his senses, exclaimed, and hurriedly said, "Why do they want to take it away? We are still studying it." Hu Tao looked at Harry, and the mask popped open with a click. He said, "Confidential. You don't have the authority to know." When Harry heard that it was confidential, he immediately stopped asking questions, but was very interested in the action of the mask popping open. Hu Tao shook his head secretly. Compared with Adrian, these researchers seemed to be easier to deceive. They stopped asking questions immediately when they were told it was confidential. Hu Tao said, "You should have a special elevator here that can send the alien spaceship directly to the ground." Harry nodded quickly and pointed to the platform under the spaceship and said, "Yes, the platform under the spaceship is the elevator. Do you want to start it now?" "Start it?" Harry didn't ask any more questions and asked his colleague to start the elevator. The colleague rubbed his hands and asked carefully, "I have a request. Can I use your laser sword? You don't know that I'm a Star Wars fan, and I especially like the lightsabers in it." Hu Tao looked at Harry, thought about it, and smiled. "What's wrong with this? But you have to be careful. This thing is very powerful." As he said that, he took off the laser sword and handed it to Harry. Harry was shaking with excitement, and other colleagues wanted to rush up to grab it. Even Adrian next to him had an expression of eagerness to try. Chapter 294. Sooner or later, action will be taken. Playing with laser swords, taking photos in various poses. Adrian and Harry were very satisfied with helping to send the spaceship to the ground. They also found a military heavy truck and used the small crane in the camp to help lift the spaceship onto the truck. Then they happily sent Hu Tao and his party to the gate of the base. Hu Tao and his party walked a long way away, and the two were still waving goodbye. "Captain, what did you say to them?" They were so fooled. "Yes, you also found a truck for us and helped us lift it onto the truck. It was so thoughtful. I didn't do anything. I just said I was carrying out a confidential mission and didn't let them ask." Who knew they really didn't ask? Hu Tao himself was still in a daze. The truck walked a long way away, and Harry still had an expression of wanting more. Taking a deep breath, Harry suddenly said, "The White House took the spaceship away, so what should we do with our research base? Should it be abolished?" Adrian was also stunned. If the research base was abolished, then the meaning of their military base would not be great, so wouldn't it also be abolished? But why did the White House ask the Z country's mecha to help? Are they afraid that aliens might suddenly run out and cause danger? Harry asked again. Adrian shook his head and said, "Who knows? I guess so." Harry was stunned and said blankly, "You don't know either? Why should I know?" Harry blinked and said, "You led them down. I thought you knew." Adrian shook his head again. Harry shuddered and suddenly said, "Should we ask the White House?" The smile on Adrian's face gradually faded, his eyes twitched, and he murmured, "It seems so." Harry quickly took out his mobile phone. He had kept the phone number of the White House assistant before. Pear asked him to contact the White House immediately if there was any situation. The call was quickly connected, and Harry hurriedly asked, "Mr. Henry, did the White House ask the Z country mecha to come and pull the spaceship away?" The White House assistant on the other side was also stunned and asked in confusion, "What Z country mecha? When did we say that we would pull the spaceship away? What's going on? Did the aliens on the spaceship contact you again?" With a click, Harry's phone slipped directly from his hand and fell to the ground. Adrian on the other side wanted to ask what the White House assistant said, but seeing Harry's reaction, there was no need to ask anything. He turned around and ran to the base, shouting, "Quick, notify the outer cordon and stop them." The spaceship looked big, but the weight was not as heavy as imagined. It was also easy to pull the heavy truck. After more than 10 minutes, it arrived at the outer cordon. At this time, the truck braked suddenly and stopped slowly. In front, the searchlight swept over, and the checkpoint was blocked by the barricade. The machine gun position on the side of the checkpoint also pointed the muzzle at the truck. "Captain, what's going on?" Hu Tao frowned slightly and said, "We've been discovered. I told you that these guys aren't stupid enough to do that. They must have contacted their superiors and confirmed that we were fake. Forget it. Anyway, our plan from the beginning was to take action. It doesn't matter if we do it early or late. Hu Tao nodded. At the beginning, they didn't think they could easily take the spaceship away. The initial plan was to take action directly and snatch the spaceship away. With a whoosh, the drone module on Hu Tao's shoulder soared into the sky and flew backwards. They are chasing us. Let's go. Don't fight. Let's send the spaceship away directly, Hu Tao ordered. 12 people immediately came to the bottom of the spaceship, each holding a corner, and the 12 mechas exerted force at the same time, with the thrusters fully opened. The total weight of the spaceship was about 30 tons, and the 12 mechas could lift it completely. The officer in charge of the checkpoint in the distance was about to shout to Hu Tao and others to give up resistance, and then he saw the spaceship soaring into the sky. After a moment of hesitation, the officer shouted, "Shoot, shoot quickly." The machine gun turned its muzzle and pointed it at the sky. A soldier also took out a Stinger missile and pointed it at the sky. Their actions naturally could not be hidden from Hu Tao and others. Looking for death, Hu Tao snorted coldly, holding the spaceship with one hand and taking out the laser gun with the other. The rest of the people did the same. 12 laser guns fired at the same time, and the bullets brightened the night. With the auxiliary aiming of artificial intelligence, almost every bullet hit the target. Because the trajectory of the laser gun has almost no deviation, it is particularly convenient to calculate and aim. Not to mention short distances, even long distances can achieve 100% hits. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With a flash of light, the 12 soldiers at the bayonet below were instantly pierced through the body by laser bullets and fell to the ground and died. The soldier carrying the Stinger fell to the ground with his head down and just pulled the trigger. The missile was fired towards the ground. With a bang, a huge explosion and fire flooded the entire bayonet. Hu Tao and others did not hesitate and evacuated quickly. At this moment, 2 spots of light suddenly appeared in the back, breaking through the night sky. It's an anti-aircraft missile. Hu Tao fired without looking back, and the others did the same. With the powerful computing power of artificial intelligence, the trajectory and speed of the missile's flight can be accurately calculated. The 2 missiles were detonated by the laser gun before they got close. Boom. 2 huge explosions appeared in the sky. Adrian saw the explosions from a distance and thought to himself, speed up and let the drone take off. Notify the Zundel Air Force Base, ask them for help, and let the F-22 take off. Of course, the most important thing is to notify the White House and the Pentagon. The White House is preparing for the farewell ceremony the next day. Pear was discussing the speech for tomorrow's farewell ceremony with the White House spokesman, and the White House assistant rushed in anxiously, shouting, "No, sir, the Z country's Mecha ran to Area 51 and took away our alien spaceship." What? Pear stood up in an instant. The spokesman and the people on the scene were confused. Alien spaceship? What the hell? When did the M country hide alien spaceships? Pear came back to his senses and quickly signaled everyone to go out, then asked, "What's going on? Are you saying that those mechas took away our spaceship? How did they know that there was a spaceship in Area 51? I don't know either, but sir, the most important thing now is to intercept them. This spaceship is our most precious heritage. No matter what, it can't fall into the hands of Country Z." The White House assistant said hurriedly. Pear slammed the table and roared, "Does the Pentagon know? Let them quickly send fighter jets to intercept these mechas for me. What the hell is Country Z doing? They are so bold that they actually ran to our country to snatch our spaceship. Damn it. Do 2 things for me now. Keep an eye on the Pentagon. No matter what, you have to take the spaceship back for me. Then contact Country Z for me. I want to ask them what they mean. By the way, this matter should not be made too big. I don't want tomorrow's newspapers to be full of news about our alien spaceship. Strictly control the news for me. If anyone leaks the news, I will hold him accountable." Yes. The White House assistant looked serious and ran out of the office quickly. Chapter 295 to Shameless. The Pentagon was brightly lit all night. The atmosphere was extremely tense at this time, and all the staff on duty were busy. In the huge command center, the Minister of Defense, who arrived urgently, was arranging an interception plan. On the big screen, the video footage sent back by the drone was played in real time. Satellite images were also constantly updated. The whereabouts of Hu Tao and his group could not be hidden at all. However, Hu Tao and others did not seem to have any intention of hiding, and they just headed westward. At this time, the spacecraft was fixed on a truck and headed west along the road in the wilderness. Hu Tao and other 12 mechas were guarding near the truck. "Where is the F-22? Asked the Minister of Defense. "There are still 20 seconds to reach the range." They asked whether to launch a missile. The Minister of Defense hesitated. In fact, Pear has not yet made up his mind whether to use heavy weapons to intercept, such as launching missiles. Because launching missiles, firepower coverage, and may directly damage the alien spacecraft. Another point is that, if the mecha is destroyed, will it attract retaliation from Country Z, and provoke a war between the two countries? The incident happened suddenly, and Pear has not yet discussed an accurate result. He just said that he would intercept, but how to intercept, and to what extent, all need to be considered. At this time, the defense minister's cell phone suddenly rang. It was from the White House. Attack. The defense minister was shocked. The person on the other side continued, "Except for nuclear bombs, all means can be used. Not only should we leave the alien spacecraft, but it is best to leave the mecha as well. Do you understand what I mean? The Z side is not right in this matter. If we shoot down the mecha, they may not dare to do anything to us, but we can have the mecha. Even if it is a wreckage, we can still study a lot of things. Do you understand?" "Understood." The defense minister quickly understood the White House's intention, hung up the phone, and immediately said, "F-22 is in range. Immediately launch missiles for me. All missiles. Understand? And drones. Also launch missiles for me. By the way, where is the AK-130? As long as it is in the attack range, attack it all." Everyone in the command center was startled, and did not dare to ask more questions, and immediately took action. On the highway, the truck was driving at full speed. Hu Tao and others followed the truck. From time to time, a car appeared on the road. Seeing the mecha guarding the flying saucer-like thing, they were all dumbfounded. At a certain point, Hu Tao's face changed slightly, and he said in a deep voice, "They launched missiles. Country M has satellite support all over the sky, and Hu Tao must have satellite intelligence support from Country Z. All actions of the major military bases of Country M cannot be hidden from Country Z. The F-22 that took off and approached and launched missiles were all detected by Country Z one by one. Like the Pentagon, Hu Tao also has a huge military command system behind him to provide support for them." Many team members frowned. "The missile will arrive in 46 seconds. Execute according to the plan," Hu Tao said immediately. When they came, Country Z also formulated a detailed combat plan. First, they evaluated the possible attacks that the 12 mechas might encounter, and also made the worst plan. That is, Country M would use all its weapons to attack them with all its strength. Missiles were in the plan, and the response method can be described as simple and crude. The 12 mechas immediately stepped forward, lifted the spaceship off the truck, and then dropped it on the road. The truck continued to move forward. The 12 mechas also stayed beside the spaceship, waiting patiently. Such actions naturally could not be hidden from the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense had a question mark on his face, pointed at the big screen and asked, "What are they doing?" Everyone at the scene looked at each other, and no one could tell. The missiles were approaching quickly. The first batch of 8 F-22s were dispatched. In order to cover the firepower, all missiles were fired. A total of 64 missiles were almost certain to cover all 12 mechas. Now, all the missiles have approached the target and appeared in the sky. Disperse. Hu Tao gave an order, and all the team members opened their thrusters and quickly dispersed in all directions. At this distance, the missiles have reached the end, and it is almost impossible to make large angle maneuvers. Inside the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense also clearly saw the scene of the 12 mechas dispersing. Hey, they don't care about the spaceship anymore? Or thought suddenly flashed through the mind of the Minister of Defense. The next moment, all the missiles exploded with a rumble, with the spaceship as the center point. The 2-kilometer radius was almost completely covered by the flames of the explosion. The explosion lasted for nearly 10 seconds before it stopped, and the flames of the explosion lasted for a long time. "Did it hit?" the Minister of Defense asked hurriedly. A soldier hurriedly reported, "It hit. All 64 missiles hit the target." I'm talking about the Mecha, not the alien spaceship. The Minister of Defense was so anxious that he jumped up and down. Even a fool could see that the missile hit the alien spaceship. It would be difficult not to hit such a large target. The key is the Mecha. This one, it seems not. The drone camera retracted and soon found that all 12 mechas had escaped the explosion range and were completely unscathed. I understand. The Minister of Defense slammed the table and gritted his teeth and said, "They are too shameless." At this moment, the Minister of Defense had guessed the plan of Hu Tao and others. If faced with a missile attack, the alien spacecraft would be abandoned and bombed at will, because the alien spacecraft is covered with mysterious crystals on the outside, with amazing protection, and its own protection should also be extremely amazing. Such missile bombing can't hurt the alien spacecraft at all, and Hu Tao and others just need to ensure that they are not bombed by missiles head on. In this way, it is equivalent to cutting off the possibility of long-range missile bombing. In this way, the United States can only choose to attack at close range. But whether it is tank armor, soldiers, or even helicopters, facing 12 mechas at close range is simply asking for abuse. In the picture, the dust and smoke of the explosion slowly dissipated, and Hu Tao and others quickly approached the center of the explosion, and then carried the alien spacecraft, and left in a chic manner. Asshole. The Minister of Defense was so angry that his teeth itched. "Minister, what should we do now? Continue to launch missiles?" The Minister of Defense gritted his teeth and said, "Let AC-130 attack and blow up their trucks for me. Without trucks, let's see how you can transport spacecraft." At an altitude of 1,000 meters, a huge plane was flying quickly and had already arrived above Hu Tao and others. The AC-130, known as an aerial gunboat, was a plane that specialized in ground attacks and had super firepower. The plane had a 105mm howitzer, a 40mm cannon, and two 20mm Gatling machine guns, which could strike enemies on the ground at an altitude of 1,000 meters. Its firepower was incredibly strong. Chapter 296, Being Tricked Again. Hu Tao and others put the spaceship back on the truck and continued to set off. "Captain, this alien spaceship is really powerful. Look at all the missiles bombed just now, but nothing happened. What do you think? This is an alien spaceship after all. I feel that, unless there is a nuclear bomb, they can't be hurt at all. Do you think the countrymen will launch a nuclear bomb? Don't tell me, if there is such a possibility, we swaggered and took the spaceship away, they will be furious. Maybe they will directly launch a nuclear bomb. Nonsense. Unless they are crazy, how can they drop a nuclear bomb on their own land?" At this time, Hu Tao also received news from his superiors. An AC-130 of the other side has approached them, and they will soon enter the attack range of the AC-130. The superior speculated that their target should be the truck. "You just reacted." Hu Tao snorted coldly. When they came, there were only a few combat plans. In the face of long-range missile attacks, the spaceship was used to resist the missiles and keep the Mecha safe. If facing a short-range interception, the Mecha would attack. At the same time, a response plan was also made for the AC-130 attack. "Wu Zhao, the AC-130 is coming. You go and deal with it," Hu Tao said immediately. "Oh." Wu Zhao chuckled and said, "You are really looking for death." The AC-130 is a propeller aircraft that is incredibly slow compared to fighter jets, and it is equipped with howitzers, machine guns, etc. In order to ensure accuracy, it cannot fly too high. It usually attacks at an altitude of about 2,000 meters, and this distance can be easily reached by the Mecha. Wu Zhao's Mecha has received data from the satellite and located the AC-130 above his head, and then the thrusters are fully opened and it instantly soars into the sky. Pentagon Command Center. It is expected to reach the range in 10 seconds. But at this time, the Minister of Defense suddenly had a shock in his heart and hurriedly shouted, "Not good. Let the AC-130 evacuate quickly." Just now, the Minister of Defense only thought about blowing up the truck, thinking of using the AC-130's superior firepower to cover the truck and blow it up first, but subconsciously ignored that if the AC-130 wanted to attack, it would fly very low. At an altitude of 2,000 meters, the AK-130, which was flying very slowly, was simply a meal for the mecha with amazing flexibility. But it was too late to wake up. Wu Zhao urged the mecha to rush into the sky and quickly locked onto the huge black bird-like plane in the sky. This thing was converted from a transport plane. It was originally bulky and a propeller plane. It was difficult to turn around in the air. Wu Zhao pulled out his laser sword and rushed up like lightning. The pilot of the AK-130 had received an order from the Pentagon to evacuate urgently, but at this time, the pilot had already discovered the mecha rushing towards him below. No, run. The AK-130 had no air combat capabilities. When it was deployed, it usually gained absolute air superiority. When facing a fighter, this guy was just an aerial target. Pull up, quickly pull up. The pilot hurriedly pulled up the plane. The plane drew a curve and climbed slowly. But this kind of maneuver is really as slow as a snail for a mecha. Wu Zhao approached the AK-130 at lightning speed, holding the laser sword in front of him. Without moving, he used the relative speed to rip the AK-130 apart. Facing the laser sword, the AK-130's fuselage was like paper, and it was not vulnerable at all. After doing all this, Wu Zhao turned around and left without looking back. Behind him, the AK-130 exploded into a ball of fireworks starting from the nose. The Pentagon. The video has been sent back to the scene of the AK-130 reduced to ashes. There was a dead silence at the scene. The Minister of Defense was also like falling into an ice cellar, gritting his teeth and saying, "How long will it take for the second batch of F-22s to arrive? Blow up their trucks for me. The priority target is still the truck." The Minister of Defense thinks that, after blowing up the truck, the mecha can only choose to carry the spacecraft away, but the battery of the mecha should be limited. Carrying such a heavy spacecraft, it should not be able to run far. Once the mecha is out of power, it will be at its mercy. So, where are they going? The mechas were moving westward. At this moment, the Minister of Defense suddenly realized that there was a transport ship from Country Z docked in the Los Angeles port area, and its purpose was to pick up Hu Tao and his men tomorrow. Quick, show me if the transport ship from Country Z is still in the port area. Soon, information about the transport ship was also retrieved. According to the port's report, the transport ship was docked in the port area at the moment. Minister, should we seize this transport ship? Said an officer next to him. The Minister of Defense frowned. Seizing the transport ship from Country Z was a big deal. But then he thought again, now that the mechas from Country Z had come to rob their spacecraft openly, and even destroyed one of their AK-130s, what else was there to worry about in this situation? Contact the Coast Guard and ask them to block this transport ship. No matter what, it cannot leave the port. Do you understand? The Minister of Defense immediately ordered. And Hu Tao's side. Hu Tao looked at the light that exploded in the night sky and checked the map again. There were still 270 kilometers to the coastline. Install the thrusters. Hu Tao immediately ordered. Several team members hurried to the front of the truck compartment. Here, a pile of things were covered with canvas. When the canvas was lifted, there were 6 large military green protective boxes. Each protective box was 1 cubic meter in size. When the protective box was opened, there was a large particle thruster inside. There were 6 in total, each with a diameter of about 50 centimeters. It was specially made when it came, and it was equipped with a separate power supply compartment. It can run for 1.5 hours at full power. Hu Tao picked up a thruster and directly attached it to the bottom of the spacecraft. 4 were installed at the bottom and 2 were installed at the back. A total of 6 thrusters. The purpose was to use the thrusters to take the spacecraft away directly after the truck was blown up. At first, the country considered simply using a large nuclear fusion powered thruster, but after thinking about it, they decided not to do so, fearing that the thruster would fall into the hands of the M country, and also fearing that it would be destroyed by missiles at high altitude. About 10 minutes later, Hu Tao received intelligence from his superiors again, saying that the second batch of fighter jets of the other side had reached the range and launched missiles. The first time, the M country did not consider that Hu Tao and others would use alien spacecraft to resist missile bombing, so this time, the target must be the truck to slow down the movement of several people. "Brother, get out of the car." Hu Tao patted the car window and said to the driver. The driver was an agent of the Special Intelligence Bureau. Hearing Hu Tao's words, he immediately evacuated. Hu Tao hugged him, then nodded to the other team members and quickly started the 6 particle thrusters at the bottom of the spacecraft. With a bang, the 6 thrusters pushed the spacecraft into the air. Below, a large number of missiles appeared in the field of vision. Boom boom boom. The missiles landed and blew the truck to pieces. At the command center of the Pentagon, the Minister of Defense slammed the table again. How shameless. The Minister of Defense felt that he had been fooled by Hu Tao and others again. All his actions were within Hu Tao's calculations. Chapter 297. Even aliens look down on us. The command center in the basement of the White House. Per and others have been watching the actions of the Pentagon. Seeing the spaceship installed with thrusters and soaring into the sky, Per and others were dumbfounded again. How could this happen? Per murmured to himself. On the big screen in front of him, the truck had been engulfed in flames from the explosion. But it was a lonely explosion. At this moment, the White House assistant hurried in. "Sir, the Z country has contacted us." Per's face changed, and he stood up quickly. Everyone present followed Per's eyes. Although the M country was bombing happily now, in the final analysis, all military actions have a premise, that is, how the Z country would react. Yes, the Z country sent out mechas to rob the spaceship openly. But the question is what the M country can do. Not to mention, whether it can intercept Hu Tao and others. Even if it really intercepts them, it will inevitably destroy 12 mechas and seize a transport ship of the Z country. Of course, Per's initial idea was to kill all the mechas, and at the risk of going to war with the Z country, he had to get the wreckage of these 12 mechas. But as the operation progressed, Per found that he had thought too simply. The 12 mechas were not so easy to deal with. Facts have proved that indiscriminate bombing was useless, and close-range attacks were just a waste of time. At the same time, it was impossible for Country M to bring thousands of tanks and hundreds of helicopters to attack the 12 mechas, because so many troops could not be mobilized in a short period of time. So after discovering that the 12 mechas could not be kept, Per was a little shaken. If he ended up getting nothing and going to war with Country Z, it would be a real loss. Under the current circumstances, Per dared not go to war with Country Z at the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense was so angry that he jumped up and down. At this time, an officer nearby said, "Minister, they don't have trucks now, and they are flying in the air with thrusters. If we attack them at this time, they will be unable to escape." Yes. The Minister of Defense's eyes lit up, and he said quickly, "Quick, launch missiles. They have thrusters, right? Even if I can't kill them, I will blow up the thrusters and see what else they can do." With an order, the nearest several secret missile bases directly launched cruise missiles. In the distance, there are more fighters coming. These actions cannot be hidden from Country Z at all. They launched missiles again. Hu Tao snorted. When abandoning the truck, several people had already replaced the battery compartment, and now the power is sufficient. Alas, why don't these M people learn from their mistakes? Don't they understand that missile bombing is useless? Hu Tao smiled and said, "Okay, listen to my orders, and be ready at any time." The first batch of missiles, 3 cruise missiles, are approaching rapidly. The target is the moving spacecraft, and Hu Tao and others are ready. When the missiles were getting very close, Hu Tao and his men immediately took action and directly removed the thrusters on the spacecraft. These 6 thrusters were specially designed, suction type, and could be quickly installed and removed. After the thrusters were removed, 12 people controlled the thrusters and used the remaining power of the thrusters to quickly disperse and leave the missile explosion range. The remaining alien spacecraft began to fall to the ground after losing power. 3 cruise missiles had already activated the scene guidance, firmly locked onto the falling spacecraft in the air, adjusted the angle, and hit the alien spacecraft with a bang after just a few seconds. Boom. The alien spacecraft was once again baptized by the explosion. If the Red Queen knew that Hu Tao and his men used the spacecraft as bait to guide the missiles, she would probably be furious. And the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, who had just been a little excited, wilted again like an eggplant hit by frost. Too shameless. The officers next to him couldn't help but scold. Aren't they trying to seize the spaceship? They should at least pay attention to it. Why do they keep using it as a shield? And these aliens, they were blown into such a mess, but they didn't react at all. The flames of the explosion dissipated, and the 12 mechas returned to the spaceship, picked up the spaceship, and set off again. The defense minister was so angry that his face turned green. At this moment, he completely understood that it was impossible to bomb with long-range missiles. It was not easy to lock the mechas, because the mechas would hide under the spaceship, and the spaceship was so big that it directly blocked the mechas. At the White House, seeing that the operation failed again, everyone present was a little numb. They all said that Country Z was sinister and cunning, and they saw it today. What was wrong with their brains? They could come up with such a strange idea, to use alien spaceships to block missiles. Why don't we send out ground troops? I don't believe that Country Z has the guts to massacre our soldiers. We don't dare to go to war, but do they dare? That's right. If they massacre our soldiers, how will the whole world see them? Country Z is a country that cares a lot about its reputation, and will definitely not do that. So, do you mean to let our soldiers sacrifice themselves in vain? Also, why do you think Country Z doesn't dare to go to war? The mechas are so powerful, and they have also developed laser weapons. If a war really starts, do you think we will be their opponent? This is just a war. You must also understand that once a war breaks out, Country Z will blockade our economy in all aspects. At that time, they will immediately blockade nanomedical machines, virtual space, and everything. Our economy will definitely collapse before this. Damn it, we used to blockade Country Z. When will it be Country Z's turn to blockade us? Forget it. If Country Z really blocks this one in a medical machine, what do you think those family consortiums who still dream of living longer will do? What should we do? Should we just watch them leave? We can't hide this. How will the world look at us? They will say that Country Z stole the alien spaceship from our country. Are we shameless? Haha, when we asked Country Z to send out mechas to help us solve the underground monster, we already had no face. Just then, Pear came back. His face was pale. His expression was haggard. Mr. President. Everyone stood up and looked at Pear, not knowing what Country Z said. Pear sat down in his seat and glanced at the big screen. As expected, Hu Tao and others were still intact. Give up. Pear waved his hand weakly. Everyone was shocked. Mr. President, what did Country Z say? Perez glanced at everyone and said, what else can they say? Of course they threaten us, start a war, and blockade our economy. How dare they? Damn Country Z people, they are so hateful, they are simply imperialists. And do you know? Perez slammed the table, pointed at the spaceship on the big screen and screamed. Country Z told me that it was the damn alien in this alien spaceship who contacted them first and asked Country Z to take them away. Fuck, even these aliens look down on our country. Do you understand? Even these aliens look down on us. For a moment, Perez was so aggrieved that he almost cried. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298. We gave it to them. Captain, why is no one attacking us? The team members asked in confusion. It has been a long time since the last wave of missile attacks. Can't the country guys be up to something bad again? Are they going to send ground troops if the Air Force doesn't work? Impossible. Sending ground troops would be a waste of life. Maybe they are betting that we don't dare to kill people. The team members were talking about it. Hu Tao shouted, okay, stop talking. Country didn't attack, so hurry up and get on the road. When we leave country, we will be truly safe. However, in his heart, Hu Tao felt that country didn't attack, and it was very likely that the country had taken action. Otherwise, if the spacecraft was stolen from its own land, would country let it go? An hour later, the group arrived at the port and saw the transport ship below the port. There are water police. Is it the coast patrol? A team member exclaimed. Hu Tao also saw that there were several patrol boats around the transport ship with warning lights flashing. "Captain, do you want to implement the backup plan?" Wu Zhao asked. "In the evacuation plan, the first plan is to evacuate normally by transport ship. But in fact, the transport ship is only a plan on the surface, and it is also a cover. In the waters of the west coast, there is already a submarine of Country Z lurking. The backup plan is to throw the alien spacecraft into the sea and tow it away with the submarine." After hesitating for a while, Hu Tao decided to contact his superiors. In response to Hu Tao's inquiry, his superiors answered with one sentence: "Go boldly and safely." Hu Tao understood instantly, and he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and said, "Brothers, go directly down, we will go home." Many team members were stunned. What about the M countrymen? Hu Tao looked at the patrol boat below and chuckled. "Don't pay attention to them, a bunch of cowards." Hearing this, everyone was still unable to react. Country M was giving in. "I never thought that the United States would give in one day." "You are wrong. Things change. No one can escape from the fate. The United States was so arrogant before. Now it is their turn to suffer. We are still strong. Otherwise, the United States would give in. Let's go down." Hu Tao led everyone and swaggered down. This is the port area. The large number of coast guards has attracted a lot of attention. Now such a huge alien spaceship has fallen from the sky, which has been seen by many people. "Oh my god, what is that? A UFO?" "Yes, it is a UFO, an alien spaceship. Aliens are coming to attack the Earth." "What is going on?" "First there are underground monsters, and then there are aliens. Are all the plots in the movie going to happen?" Pentagon. Through the video, sent back by Global Hawk, everyone in the command center witnessed Hu Tao and others arriving at the port and landing the alien spaceship on the transport ship. "Minister, are you really not going to do anything?" An officer couldn't help asking. "Yes, it's still in time to intercept them now. But how to intercept them? Send the Coast Guard? Their equipment is just a waste of time when facing Mechas. Then what should we do? They came to our country and robbed our things. Are we just going to watch them leave?" Everyone in the command center was filled with indignation. The defense minister's face flushed red, and he pointed to the big screen and said, "Everyone, you must remember this day forever. This day is our shame. Sooner or later, we will wash away the shame and make the evil Z country pay the price. I will go to the White House now and discuss with the president. Tomorrow, we must expose the power of Z country to the world and accuse the world of Z country's shameless behavior." After speaking, the defense minister strode out of the command center. He no longer had the face to stay here. The transport ship set sail and left M country. The next day, the relevant news shocked the whole M. Many people in M country were waiting to watch the farewell ceremony of Z country Mecha today. Unexpectedly, when they turned on the TV, they found that the TV was madly broadcasting the news that Z country Mecha snatched the alien spaceship from M country and a fierce exchange of fire broke out. For a time, everyone felt confused. The first thought was, when did M country have an alien spaceship? Looking at the news reports, the major media couldn't tell the reason, but all kinds of messy speculations came out. What Z country people found an alien spaceship when exploring the underground world? According to reason, this alien spaceship should belong to M country, but Z country wanted to embezzle it, so they sent out Mecha and forcibly snatched the spaceship. Of course, there are also speculations that this alien spaceship came from the mysterious Area 51. No matter how to speculate, the key is that the Z country Mecha snatched the spaceship again. Yesterday, Hu Tao and others crossed hundreds of kilometers and were bombed by missiles in the middle of the way. In addition, they crossed Los Angeles in the end. Such a big movement is impossible to conceal. The key is that the alien spaceship is so big, with a diameter of 40 meters, it can't be hidden, even if you want to. Many people even took photos and videos of alien spaceships. I don't care where this alien spaceship came from, but since it's ours, why did country Z take our things, and on our land? What about our army? Didn't they stop it? Didn't they just watch country Z's mechas take our things? That's right, don't we claim to have the most powerful military in the world? Pellet said so publicly before. Are they really that powerful? Countless countrymen were extremely angry, mainly because they had always been the only ones who robbed things all over the world. When would it be their turn to be robbed? On the White House side, countless reporters also flocked over to inquire about what happened. In addition, there were also people marching and demonstrating outside the White House to protest the government's inaction. Inside the White House, Pele was so confused that he really wanted to quit. "Sir, if we don't respond at this time, it will only be more troublesome, and your approval rating will drop to the freezing point." Because of the request for assistance from Country Z, Pele's approval rating rebounded, but it has only been a few days, and this kind of thing happened again. There is no doubt that it will fall back the way it rose. It's easy for you to say. How can I respond? Should I say that Country Z threatened us and forced us to hand over the alien spaceship? If we don't hand it over, it will immediately impose sanctions on us. Can I say that? Pair is shameless, but Country M still has some face. And those damn aliens, they actually look down on our Country M. How abominable. What Pair couldn't accept the most was that even aliens looked down on them, which was too damn embarrassing. After venting, Pair waved his hands tiredly and regained his composure, saying, "Go, organize the press conference. I'll go after I tidy up." The assistant nodded and hurried to make arrangements. Soon, the press conference was held. Pair appeared haggard. "Mr. President, what happened last night? Did the people from Country Z really steal our alien spaceship?" A reporter asked directly without caring about the order. Pair simply waved his hand, signaling everyone to be quiet, and then said seriously, "No, this alien spaceship was given to them by us." Chapter 299 Miniaturization completed. Many reporters were all dumbfounded. For Country Z, what a joke. Pair took a deep breath, and a smile appeared on his face. He said, "In fact, this alien spaceship was discovered by us in the underground world, just as the outside world speculated. We speculate that this spaceship has crashed for many years and has been sealed in the dark underground. But it still has great research value. Since the spaceship was discovered by us and Country Z together, after friendly consultations with Country Z, we decided to jointly study this spaceship. As you all know, Country Z has strong scientific research capabilities, so if we hand over the spaceship to them, they should be able to research more useful things." Many reporters looked at each other, their eyes full of confusion. "Is that true? What about the explosion last night?" a reporter asked hurriedly. Many people heard the loud explosion, and some saw the flames of the explosion. Although military mobilization is confidential and no one can know, it does not prevent them from speculating that there was a fierce exchange of fire yesterday. Well, Pair still smiled and said, "As far as I know, the alien spaceship collided with a tanker during transportation, causing a violent explosion. The fierce exchange of fire you mentioned is completely nonsense. We maintain good diplomatic relations with Country Z. If not, Country Z would not have sent Mechas to help us eliminate the underground monsters." Okay, this is the whole story. As for what this alien spaceship can research, I will pay close attention to it. Once there is the latest news, I will announce it to the public in a timely manner. At the same time, I also hope to research more useful technologies and improve the technological level of our Earth. After saying that, Pair waved his hand at everyone and turned away. Only the reporters at the scene were left with a confused look on their faces. At this moment, they were completely confused and didn't know what happened. And this incident was quickly reported back to China. There was a lot of discussion on the internet. "Damn, an alien spaceship, and there are pictures. It looks real. It must be real. Didn't you see the news report? We dispatched Mechas and directly snatched the alien spaceship back." "It's not snatched back. The latest news." Pair said it himself. "They gave it to us." Given to us? Can you believe such nonsense? It's obviously a cover-up. If you ask me, what happened is this: the United States discovered the alien spaceship first, and then the news leaked. We took the opportunity to dispatch Mechas and snatched the alien spaceship back. If it wasn't like this, why did they suddenly change their tone and be willing to dispatch Mechas when they originally said they would not help the United States? 9 out of 10 times it's like this. Many news reports have said that there was an explosion or something. It must have been intercepted by the United States, but it failed to intercept. The Mechas are too awesome. It went directly to other countries' territory and snatched things back. Yeah, the key is that the United States can't do anything to us, and it has to say to the outside world that it was given to us. So it's so refreshing. The internet was basically full of applause, and many people were discussing what was on this alien spaceship, whether there were aliens inside or something. None of these things affected Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang didn't pay attention. Nuclear base. Mr. Zhou, we finally succeeded. Zhu Jindang waved his fist excitedly. Everyone present also cheered excitedly. Zhou Yang looked at the miniaturized controlled nuclear fusion device in front of him, and his heart was also excited. From the ignition of the light of nuclear fusion to now, more than half a year, the miniaturization has been completed. The nuclear fusion technology route is basically completed. Zhou Yang stepped forward and grabbed the miniaturized controlled nuclear fusion device with one hand. The whole device is an inverted cone, with a diameter of 12 cm at the lowest point and 33 cm at the highest point in the middle. The bottom is a miniaturized controlled nuclear fusion device, and the upper part is integrated with an energy conversion device. In other words, this miniaturization not only miniaturizes the fusion device, but also miniaturizes the energy conversion device. Everyone, we have completed the first step of the long march very well, but there is a more important task waiting for us next. That is the assembly of the second generation mecha. I think many people should know that we are going to make the second generation mecha. Everyone present fell silent. Zhu Jindang and others also nodded. Of course, they knew about the second generation mecha. Zhou Yang continued, I have decided to put the assembly of the second generation mecha here, so you still have a lot of tasks to do, but now it is still a while before the assembly. You have worked hard for more than half a year. In the nuclear base, although there is no worry about food and clothing, it is boring and lonely. It is not ordinary to be in a closed underground environment all year round. So, take a month off. The researchers on the scene burst into huge cheers. Most of them are young people who doesn't like to play and who doesn't want to play. After arranging a holiday for the researcher, Zhou Yang walked towards Zhu Jindang and said, Mr. Zhu, it is reasonable that you should rest for a while after working so hard for so long, but we are in a hurry. The appearance of alien spaceships is a good thing, but it is also a signal that the deep space is not safe, so we need to continue to advance our research. Zhou Yang was completely sure about the alien spaceship. In the endless void of the universe, humans are not lonely. No one knows when aliens will appear on Earth. If we don't prepare early, humans will face a catastrophe. Zhu Jindang nodded solemnly and said, yes, and the aliens' technology is very strong. I heard that the alien artificial intelligence only took half an hour to complete the miniaturization research of controlled nuclear fusion. This level of technology is too terrifying. After a pause, Zhu Jindang said, Mr. Zhou, please make the arrangements. Zhou Yang said, the technology of the second generation mecha still has a difficulty, that is, the curvature engine. My idea is to use controlled nuclear fusion as a generator for space collapse, so your help is indispensable for the breakthrough of this technology. Zhu Jindang smiled and said, then what else is there to say, let's go now. The next day, Zhou Yang took Zhu Jindang and others back to the Wanghu Village Research Institute. Yi Rongming and others have been doing theoretical research on the curvature engine, waiting for the breakthrough of controlled nuclear fusion miniaturization, and then entering formal research and development. Zhou Yang had more things to do. On the one hand, he had to focus on the research of the curvature engine, and on the other hand, he had to focus on the research of the austenite superalloy. At the same time, Zhou Yang was also thinking about this alien spaceship, thinking about how to get some more technology from the Red Queen. It would take at least 10 days for the transport ship to return. However, Zhou Yang did not wait for the alien spaceship, but Gao Cheng made a research discovery first. Chapter 300 Invading DNA. It was still a video call. Gao Cheng appeared on the screen, along with an old man with grey hair on his temples. This old man was called Liu Guangjin, a domestic biological expert. Mr. Zhou, Gao Cheng greeted. Zhou Yang nodded, then looked at Liu Guangjin and said, Mr. Liu, thank you for your hard work. Liu Guangjin said, it's not hard at all. To be honest, it's my luck that I have the opportunity to study this underground creature this time. After some politeness, Zhou Yang asked, what have you found? Gao Cheng was excited when he mentioned his discovery and hurriedly said, we first conducted genetic mapping on the underground monsters we captured. Through research, we found that this underground creature is highly similar to the dinosaurs in ancient times in terms of genes, almost reaching 99%. Zhou Yang nodded slightly. He also speculated on this point because the underground monsters that appeared could find some shadows in ancient dinosaurs. The only difference is that they are huge, far exceeding dinosaurs, like the Tyrannosaurus rex that appeared in Country M. In ancient times, the Tyrannosaurus rex was only 10 to 20 meters tall, while the two in Country M reached an astonishing 100 meters. This is more than several times higher. Is it because of the mutation of genes that they have become so huge? Zhou Yang asked. Gao Cheng said, we also speculated so at the beginning, but after careful study, we found that the huge size may not be due to genes. The mutated genes should be related to changes in the environment, which allows them to adapt to the low oxygen concentration environment. Liu Guangjin next to him continued, we dissected the monster. The captured monster was eventually killed and became a research object because many underground monsters were captured later. The dissection found that the monster's physiological structure has some special changes from the dinosaur fossils we obtained. In order to control the larger body, they have evolved a second brain. Zhou Yang's heart moved, and he remembered all the details in the movie Pacific Rim. The monsters in the movie also have a second brain. This actually makes sense, because the monster has a huge body. In order to better control the body, the brain must also increase, in order to cope with more muscle nerve signals. Either the brain becomes more developed, or, as Liu Guangjin said, a second brain evolves. The two brains work at the same time, with division of labor and cooperation. The main brain controls thoughts, and the second brain controls specific actions, just like a secondary system. Liu Guangjin said, if that's all, it's not a special discovery. We conducted an anatomical study on the pituitary structure of the second brain, and found a mysterious hormone-like tissue. Zhou Yang was surprised and said, what do you mean by hormone-like tissue? Shouldn't the pituitary gland secrete hormones? Gao Cheng operated it, and a projection appeared behind him. Mr. Zhao, do you think this thing looks very similar to DNA? Gao Cheng asked. Zhou Yang nodded. The projection in front of him was a spiral structure that was highly similar to DNA, but there were still big differences in the details. It's not the same as the four existing DNA structures. Zhou Yang said. Gao Cheng nodded and said, yes, we are still measuring the genetic information of this DNA, but our discovery is not this, but the function of this thing. Gao Cheng played a video. At the beginning, we suspected that the huge size of this underground monster might be related to this hormone. So we extracted this hormone and injected it into the body of mouse. In the video, a mouse was injected with hormones. But the mice didn't change at all and died soon. We dissected the mice and found that these hormone tissues destroyed the DNA structure of the mice themselves. Or, it's the hormone that wants to merge its own DNA with the DNA of the mice. Zhou Yang understood instantly and said, you mean, this DNA has a property of invading the DNA of other organisms? That's right. Gao Cheng nodded hurriedly. It's easy to talk to smart people. There's no need to explain too much. They can understand what you mean immediately. That's interesting. Zhou Yang raised his eyebrows slightly. Under normal circumstances, unless DNA mutates itself, its structure is very stable. Foreign invading DNA tissue will not affect the DNA of the organism itself. This sentence is easy to understand. If you are injected with a tube of giant panda blood, will you become a giant panda? Of course not. Then what? Zhou Yang continued to ask. Gao Cheng said, we have thought of many ways to study this change, or to find a way to make this hormone DNA tissue merge with the DNA of the mouse, but all failed. At this time, it was Liu who reminded me, and I thought of using an atomic probe. Nanomedical machine. Zhou Yang exclaimed, and immediately understood Gao Cheng's idea. That is to use an atomic probe to recombine the two DNAs, such as determining which fragments of the mouse DNA the hormone DNA wants to destroy and replace, and then use the atomic probe to complete this process directly. But the nanomedical machine must be modified, but this is not a big problem. The nanomedical machine was developed by Zhou Yang, and he is most familiar with it. Finally, Zhou Yang asked. Zhou Yang operated it again, and the video switched. In the video, there was a huge mouse. The original mouse was only 10 centimeters long, but now it has become 50 or 60 centimeters long. Not only has the body become larger, but it can be clearly seen that the muscle tissue has become extremely strong. The hair has fallen off, and the body is covered with iron gray leather armor. It looks like a super mouse that has been mutated by nuclear radiation. Zhou Yang was silent for a while and asked, "What do you think now?" "Simply cultivating a mutant rat is definitely boring." Zhou Yang said, "Our current idea is to proceed in 2 steps. The first step is to verify the universality of this hormone-changing DNA, and to conduct some research on other organisms. At the same time, all DNA information is sequenced to determine its function. As for the second step." The two looked at each other, and Zhou Yang said, "We have a bold idea, that is, to select suitable gene fragments from this hormone DNA tissue, and integrate them into the human body, so that humans can have a stronger body, or a longer life, or even regenerate broken limbs. Because from the research, this underground monster also has a strong recovery ability." Zhou Yang couldn't help but gasp. This kind of research reminds Zhou Yang of something that often appears in superhero movies. Super serum, one shot, strengthen the human body. However, this kind of research can be called taboo research, because it will cause many ethical issues, such as changing your DNA, then you are still you. This most basic problem. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.